like to call the Arizona State Parks Board meeting today. This is Thursday, January 20th. Wish everybody a healthy, happy New Year, since this is the first meeting of the new year. And with that, I would like to call the meeting to order and ask board member and Arizona Office of Tourism Director Debbie Johnson to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's have a member roll call to see who's here.
Dale Larson,
I am here.
John Sefton,
Present.
Lisa Atkins, Jeff Buchanan, Debbie Johnson,
Present.
Sarah King,
I'm here.
Terry Palmberg.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Usual for introductions to the meeting, I like to just remind ourselves of what the mission statement and the vision statement for our agency is here, that we are park stewards for, managing and conserving Arizona's natural, cultural, and recreational resources for the benefit of the people, both in our parks and through our partners. And our vision statement is Arizona State Parks and Trails is indispensable to the economies, communities, and environments of Arizona. I would like to welcome everyone that's here in the room, as well as those that are on the line, and also special welcome to board member Sarah King for joining us today. The items of the agenda, when there are questions from the board member or staff have comments, certainly we would like to be able to call upon you at that time. We have a large agenda, a lot of business to cover today, so we'll try to keep this moving as quickly as we can. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Any board members have a look-see or have any questions regarding them? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, Terry Palmberg, I move approved minutes for the December 16, 2021 board meeting.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, just by acclamation. All those in favor of approving the minutes indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
Thank you, Sarah. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is something we do annually at this meeting, and that's the election of the 2022 board chairman and vice chairman. Let me get my little sheet out here so I do this correctly. We nominate and elect the chair and the vice chair in accordance with Administrative Code such and such. You see it on the agenda following the January 1st meeting. So, established by rules and custom, the chair will recognize and take nominations for the position of board chair. Nominations are now in order for the office of chairman.
Mr. Chair, Terry Palmberg, I would like very much that you would return as chair, and I nominate Dale Larson to serve as chair.
Thank you. Dale Larson has been nominated. Are there further nominations for chair? Good thing I came today. Hearing no other nominations, Dale Larson has been nominated as chair. Let's have a roll call vote.
Dale Larson,
Aye.
John Sefton,
Aye.
Debbie Johnson,
Aye.
Sarah King,
Aye.
Terry Palmberg.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed.
Thank you, and thank you, Terry. In the same accordance, nominations are now in order for the office of vice chairman of the board. Are there any nominations?
Mr. Chair, Terry Palmberg, I again think that our vice chair has done an outstanding job as well, and would like to nominate John Sefton to serve an additional term.
And I second that motion.
John Sefton has been nominated and seconded to serve as vice chair. Are there any further nominations for this office? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Dale Larson.
Enthusiastic, aye.
Member Sefton. Vice Chair
Sure.
Sefton. I'll mark that down as a sure. Debbie Johnson.
Aye.
Sarah King.
Aye.
Terry Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, newly elected, Mr. Chair, the motion passed.
Thank you very much, Kelly.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you all.
And thank you both
guys
for serving.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, and I, again, as John said, honored to do this, and certainly there's no property territory here in this position, but I certainly will enjoy it, and for next year, hopefully, there will be other nominations as well, but I will enjoy doing it for this time, so thank you all very much. All right, now we'll get into the real meat of the agenda. Item number, Agenda D3, it's the discussion and consideration of action to approve, modify, or deny funding for the submitted 2022 Heritage Fund local, regional, and state park grant applications. The presenter is our fabulous Mickey Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Mickey Rogers. I'm the Chief for Grants and Trails for Arizona State Parks. The Heritage Fund local, regional, and state park funding provides matching grants for the development of public outdoor recreation facilities. A total of $2.5 million was appropriated by the legislature during the 2021 session. All LRSP grants require a 50-50 match. A sponsor may apply for up to 20% of these appropriated funds, or $500,000. In this cycle, there were three projects that have been submitted. The first, the town of Clarkdale, is seeking funding to make improvements to its Selna Mongini Park. Clarkdale sought public input for the improvements to the existing park, along with the skills of a landscape architect to develop this plan. The current facility has not been renovated in many years. The improved park would include several activity areas, walking path, exercise stations, basketball and pickleball courts, playgrounds, and a zip line. Passive recreation, including environmental signage, interactive water feature, an amphitheater, landscaping, and amenities such as restroom, benches, tables, remodelers, and water fountains. The $500,000 grant would be matched with $1 million in LWCF funding and also town funds. The budget is very detailed, and they have put a buffer in for anticipated rising costs by the time they put this out to bid. All of the required documentation is in place, including the needed surveys, both cultural and environmental, for the project. Staff and AORC fully recommend to fully fund this project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on this project.
Okay. And I think also we have visitors that you, for this project?
Yeah, I believe
I have from Clarkdale, are we,
Clarkdale.
Clarkdale, Joni Westcott, are you on the line?
Yes,
Oh.
we are.
Thank you, but welcome, glad you're here joining us. So are there any questions regarding the Clarkdale grant request? All right, again, Jody, thank you very much for joining us. We'll move on to the next item in this area.
The second project is for Wilcox. We're seeking funds to complete improvements to both Keeler Park and Quail Run Park that were not awarded last year due to lack of available funding. The current grant awarded for LWCF was to make improvements to the existing parks, which included restroom facilities, fencing, field lighting, irrigation, spray park, pool improvements, covered rodeo grounds, and engineering. The award was for $1,500,000, with Wilcox matching this with a secured loan. But due to the lack of funding, several items were not funded. With this additional heritage funds and the special reinforcement fund in LWCF, Wilcox is seeking $500,000 in heritage funds for these items. This would include additional restroom facilities at both parks, additional fencing, concrete for structures, fitness equipment, lighting at another existing field, playground, arena bleachers, panels, tables, drinking fountain, and additional funding for a project mansion. The project includes a match of $665,041 from LWCF and $165,041 from town funds. The project is already shovel-ready, and all the needed documentation is in place. AORC and staff recommends to fully fund this project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and Wilcox is also here.
Yes, I do understand. I'd like to welcome Caleb Blaschke. And I'm sorry, I forgot the city manager's name.
That's Caleb.
Nice to meet you. Oh, you're Caleb.
I'm Caleb, the Mayor Loss, Michael.
Mayor, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
You hired him, didn't you? I understand the subordination issue. That's very good to see you. I know, Mayor, you wanted to be able to speak, so please, the floor is yours.
I do. I just wanted to say that what you do in this room is for small communities like us, and I know big cities do it too, but for us, the impact is 100% because we just couldn't do it. We couldn't do this alone, and to put people in a central location like we are down there in our parks where they are, people can walk to them, and to put this stuff. The last time we had the pool, Caleb, was 1950 something, 60 something.
It was through this grant.
It was through this grant, probably 50 or 60 years ago, I'm not sure, but long time. The pool has failed. The heater was a boiler. You can't do that anymore. And of course, it exploded on us a couple of years ago.
Of course.
Caught fire. And so, we were just kind of down. And this kind of project for the community, for the elderly that love to swim first thing in the morning, and to the kids that are there during the summer and other times, everybody goes to the park. And we do the little things we can, we keep really nice grass, and people love to go there and read books and things, and it's just something a small community, it's all they got. And so I just want to say thank you for your consideration from the bottom of our heart.
Well, thank you, Mayor. That means so much to us and to the city. A little history on this. Land and Water Conservation Fund was in a real time warp gap. I mean, there was a lot of years where those fundings were not made available at all. And finally, the federal government got smart again. And last year, and in large part because of Arizona's congressional delegation to make sure that was done. Now it's permanent. So we hope to be able to see Wilcox back at the table every and any year that you want to be able to consider it. And
Thank you.
thank you for your philosophy too for that. And also thank you for bringing the city manager along with you. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to the mayor's comments?
No, I would just say that in our small community, we've raised over $500,000 in in-kind contributions, which is huge. And those aren't only in-kind, those are cash as well. And we wanted to upgrade the pool slide, and the pool slide was going to be a little bit more, and we just started a sponsorship yesterday, and we already have $20,000 today. So the community will do their part to add whatever they can to it as well. So we got a great community that's willing to be a part of the project, part of the solution. So thank you again. We couldn't do this without your help.
Well, when it's completed, we'd like to come up and see it, see everything you've done.
We have wine, we have sure.
That's right. Good
I've
sure
been there.
Cowboys.
Not just for the wine.
I'd like to say one more thing.
Yes, sir, Mayor, go ahead.
The part where you're talking about the enclosed, the roof over the arena. We have a 4-H, all the other groups, the Southeastern Arizona group that has put together, started 2 years ago, putting together, or last year was the first year with it, that we actually had every year the state fair is in Douglas. And they just didn't have one the last 2 years. They just, the COVID just scared the life out of them, and they didn't have one. And we didn't shut our city down. We never did. I wouldn't allow it. I said, no, we're not going to allow it. And we had 1,100, this particular area, we had 1,100 people a day show up all the way from Missouri to do tractor pulls because they couldn't go anywhere else. And we did, the thing we'd like to see happen is not compete with Douglas, but we've actually started, the 4-H and all of them have started having this, we call it the Southeastern State Fair. And it's amazing. They sold $470,000 worth of cattle and sheep in 4 hours.
Wow.
Holy cow.
And everybody said, Wilcox, you'll never get it done, it'll fail, it won't go. And Nothing against Douglas. But you just do what you gotta do, you know what I mean? And so that's what we're doing. So you got a community you're investing in that understands. And that's a big deal, do you understand? And we do. And do you recognize? We definitely recognize. And we recognize you.
Oh, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for making the journey down here today. That's, I mentioned 4-hour drive. That, I think for my term on the board, that's the first time we've had people come from that far away. So thank you, and to the wonderful citizens of Wilcox. So,
Thank you.
Mickey, turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The final request was for the town of Fountain Hills. We're seeking funds to make improvements to Four Peaks Park. Fountain Hills has recently made improvements to the park that include new playground, zip line, shade structures, new basketball and pickleball courts, new picnic areas, renovations at 2 fields, and a walking path. With these improvements, there's been increase of use at the park, and there's a need for a new restroom, 3 ramadas, and landscaping, which is the request of this grant. The request will also be asking for $400,000 to be matched in LBCF funding. However, at the present time, there are no LRSP funds available if both Wilcox and Clarkdale are funded. Although there is certainly a need for these features, due to the score of the project, the recommendation is not to fund at this time. Staff will work with Fountain Hills on the application to increase the score of the project and resubmit at a later date. Depending on the American Rescue Plan Act project that will be brought to the board today, there may be additional LRSP money available in the next round. So the recommendation is not to fund this time, and AOR concurred with that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mickey. Do we have anyone from Fountain Hills on the phone? No, all right. All right, board members, questions, comments? All right, let's see. Action on this item then?
Mr. Chair, Terry Palmberg, in conjunction with staff and AORC recommendations, I move that the State Parks Board approve funding for the 2022 Heritage Fund local, regional, and state park program grant applications for Wilcox, Keeler, I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to say that. Keeler Park Quail Run project in the amount of $500,000, and Clark's Selna Mondini
There you go.
park renovation in the amount of $500,000.
Motion's on the floor to approve those 2 projects. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Dale Larson.
Aye.
John Sefton.
Aye.
Debbie Johnson.
Aye.
Sarah King.
Aye.
Terry Palmberg.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed.
Thank you again, and thank you to Joni from Clarkdale and the delegation from Wilcox. Really appreciate
Good
that.
luck, we'll come and slide.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your support.
Thanks, Joni. Thank you. All right, next item, D4, Land and Water Conservation Fund. Board could take action to approve, modify, or deny the funding for these grant applications. Mickey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The Land and Water Conservation Funds provides matching grants for the acquisition and development of public outdoor recreation facilities. The LWCF funding requires a minimum 50-50 match. Once LWCF funding is used for a project, the area must remain open to outdoor recreation in perpetuity, creating a legacy of outdoor recreation opportunities for generations to come. In this round, there were 3 projects submitted, which are the exact same projects seeking funds from the Heritage Fund. The town of Clarkdale seeking $1 million in LWCF funding to be matched with Heritage Fund and town in-kind match to make improvements to Selna Mondini Park. Wilcox is seeking $665,041 in LWCF funds matched with Heritage Fund and their old funding to make improvements at the 2 parks that were already approved for the Heritage Fund. Fountain Hills is seeking $400,000 in LWCF funding to match, that would be matched with Heritage Fund to make improvements at Four Peaks Park. The total request is $2,065,041 for these projects. In addition to the recommended amount increase award to Chandler in the amount of $139,180, the total amount of LBCF funding request is $2,204,223. Current funding available in LWCF is $176,463. $1,706,463. As with the Heritage Fund, the recommendation of staff and AORC is to fully fund both Clarkdale and Wilcox and work with Fountain Hills to improve their score. The improvements to Four Peaks Parks would certainly be a welcome addition to the park, but there's not enough funding at this time. Once the fiscal year 2022 LWCF funding is apportioned and released, along with funding from the special reapportionment account, there will be funding available to bring projects such as Fountain Hills to the board. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? We've heard already from the delegations here that on these two items, so let's go ahead and go into action motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Arizona State Parks Board approve funding for the 2022 Land and Water Conservation Fund grant applications as follows. Clarkdale's Selna Mogini Park renovation in the amount of $1 million, and Wilcox's Kyler Park Quail Run Park improvements in the amount of $665,041.
Thank you, Board Member Johnson. Is there a second?
John Sefton will second.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Dale Larson.
Enthusiastic aye.
John Sefton.
Aye.
Debbie Johnson.
Aye.
Sarah Keane.
Aye.
Terry Palmberg.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed.
Very good. All right, there you go. By the way, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting and hear all of our things. I really want to, but if you have a 4-hour drive, so again, thank you so very, very much, both of you, for coming at any time.
I think he wants to go, but I want a picture.
Oh, okay, we can do that.
I'm sorry, I know it's interrupting, but
No.
It's okay.
we'll put it all over
Our
our paper.
egos are small, but our faces are large, so
Let's go against this wall, we got the cactus.
Oh, don't get my feet.
Your shoes look great. Oh, yeah, let's get the mayor in the middle.
Come on, Chair.
Are you?
Are we good?
Okay, everybody smile and say LWCF. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
No, I'm sure it looks great.
Just make sure it's good.
It was a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Caleb.
You know, that would, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you again, Mayor.
Mr. Larson, this is Joni from Clarkdale. Could I just make a quick comment?
You certainly may, Joni. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to take this opportunity first to thank all of you for your support in our project. This park has not had a renovation in many, many years and is a place that our community members are really looking forward to enjoying when we get the project completed. But we also would like to give a special thanks to Mickey Rogers and Jeff Schmidt, who were great support for us in getting through this project and with our many, many questions in the grant application process. They were always very accommodating and very helpful to us, and we'd just like to give them special recognition and thank you again all.
Joni, thank you very much. And same, I hope you will be invited to come and see Clarkdale's completed project. We think of you a lot. I know our Tourism Director, Debbie, is here, and she's nodding her head because we realize that the economic impact of leisure-type recreational facilities in rural Arizona are critical to your survival as well as to the quality of life for your citizens. So again, appreciate you being on the line, and we're looking forward to hearing more good things. And to Mickey and Jeff and the whole team that works with these small communities, thumbs up. You guys are just great. Really appreciate the work that you're doing. And for Fountain Hills, we do hope they'll be back, and they'll try to figure it out. There's limited resources, we realize, for that, but Anything with the name Four Peaks has to be okay. There is this small brewery that maybe they can go and ask them for some sponsorship. That'll be part of that. So, all right, Mickey, let's go on to agenda D5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, funding provides funding to assist facilities that were impacted during COVID. Statistically, the use of outdoor recreation nationwide increased over 20% during the peak of COVID. Many of these outdoor facilities provided both physical and mental health safe areas for the public to recreate during COVID. The focus of these funds is for sewer and water upgrades, broadband, internet, and facilities within neighborhoods and areas that have been underserved and identified in the quality census tract. These funds are available loosely in the same categories as the appropriated Heritage Fund. A total of $5 million was made available for this program. The grant requires no match and must be completed within 2 years. In this cycle, there were 3 projects that are going before the board. Coconino County has already been approved funding for improvements to Fort Tuttle Park uses a combination of Heritage and LWCF funding, with a total award of $1 million. The project included a new sewer line which would go from the campground and connect to Flagstaff's sewer system and would require trenching in an existing parking area and then repaving this parking area. After researching the eligibility of the ARPA funds and verifying with the governor's office, this portion of the project, $923,306, would be eligible for ARPA funding. Improvements to another parking area not affected by the sewer construction would still be funded with the LRSP and LWCF funds. If approved, the original Heritage LRSP and LWCF funds left over would be available for additional grants. Staff and ARC recommend to fully fund this project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and I believe Liz is also on the line.
Okay. Thank you, Mickey, and welcome, Liz, for being on there. Board members, do you have any questions regarding the Coconino County proposal? All right.
Second project is Camp Verde is seeking $493,272 in ARPA funding to replace an old and inefficient lighting system at 2 sports fields located at Butler Park. The park is located within a qualified census tract area, which means the income level for that area is below the national average, and another focus of these funds. The park served this underserved community, not only with the fields to recreate, but also an area for the community to safely distance and recreate during the pandemic. Again, this project is eligible for funding, and staff and AIR recommend fully funding this project, and I believe Mike from Camp Verde is also on the line.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you being here. Any comments or questions from the board? All right, continue on, Mickey.
The final request is for the town of Eloy for improvements to Jones Park. Currently, the park amenities include a public pool, ball field, and skate park. The skate park was built in 2004 and is in need of an upgrade. Eloy is seeking $679,000 for a new skate park, lighting and improvements, lighting equipment for the ball field, and repairs to existing pool deck. These improvements would improve the recreational opportunities at the park, provide a safe area for youth to recreate, and be an asset to the underserved population within its area. This project is shovel-ready, and AORC and staff recommend fully funding this project, and I believe Paul is on the line if you have any questions.
Thank you, Paul, for joining us. Board members, any comments or questions on these projects? Mickey, just in general on all 3 projects, and certainly any of the others, in terms of universal design, ADA accommodations, things like restrooms, playgrounds, et cetera, I assume that all of that is always part of the overall approval project, correct?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, it's required to be accessible if it's funded with these funds.
Okay, and do usually the communities have representation from, you mentioned underrepresented groups, and you were all for that, but generally speaking, are those kinds of internal stakeholders part of the conversation and the design for most of these?
Yes, they are, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, very good. All right, hearing that, is there action motion on item D5?
Mr. Chair, I will move that the Arizona State Parks Board approve funding for the submitted 2022 American Rescue Plan Act grant applications as follows. Coconino County Fort Tuttle Improvement Project in the amount of $923,306. Eloy Jones Park Improvement Project in the amount of $679,000, and the Camp Verde Butler Park Lighting Project in the amount of $493,272.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Terry Palmer.
Thank you very much, Board Member Palmberg. It's been motion approved, or made and seconded. Are there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Dale Larson.
Aye.
John Sefton.
Aye.
Debbie Johnson.
Aye.
Sarah King. Member King.
Aye.
Thank you,
Terry
Sarah.
Palmberg.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed.
Thank you very much. And to Liz and Paul and Mike, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it, and good luck on your projects.
Thank you for your support. This is Liz with Coconino County Parks and Recreation.
Appreciate it, Liz. All right, let's go
Mike
to...
with Camp Verde Parks and Rec, and again, I'd like to express my support, again, similar to Wilcox. This makes a huge difference in small communities in Arizona that have difficulty funding projects of this size. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike, very much. Paul, are you still
This
on the
is Paul
line?
with the City of Eloy.
Yep.
I'd like to thank the board, chairman. Thank you for the support. We appreciate it. The funding will go a long way towards improving the facilities listed in the grant application. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Eloy, as well. All right, item D6 with the SLIF grant applications.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The State Lake Improvement Funds provides matching grants to assist state and local units of government to fund projects on waters where gasoline-powered boats are permitted. A total of $4 million was appropriated for the SLIF program to the 2021 Arizona State Legislative Session. A sponsor may apply up to 20% of these appropriated funds, or $800,000. In this cycle, there were 2 projects that were submitted. The Coconino County Sheriff's Office is seeking SLIF funding for a new boat to assist with water rescues, boating safety, and law enforcement on Lake Powell and along the Colorado River. They currently have a 27-foot all-weather Boston whaler, a 23-foot jet drive boat, and a 2004 19-foot Boston whaler with 2 jet skis to assist with this. The 27-foot Boston whaler is in need of replacement. They are seeking $387,000 in SLIF funding for a new 31-foot patrol boat with police electronics, a motor, and a trailer. This will assist with these rescues and patrols on the open water. Staff and AR recommend to fully fund this project, and I believe Coconino County Sheriff's is also on the phone.
Any questions on the Coconino County voting? Sheriff, Lieutenant, is it Seth Cutchin? Are you on the phone?
Yes, sir. Seth Cutchin here. I'm on the phone, available for any questions anybody may have.
All right. I like the T-shirt idea, by the way, that you're handing out that was in the description. Can you tell us a little bit about what those T-shirts are?
Thank you, guys. We've been very, very successful with that. It started years ago. We have a T-shirt made up with a fun little cartoon on there, and we like, if you have to contact mom or dad for boating violations, it's a nice little prize to hand out for their children if they're wearing a life vest. It kind of helps let medicine go down with a spoonful of sugar, as Mary Poppins used to say. But yeah, it was so popular, we would actually have some parents contact our boats asking if we had any T-shirts. And it was just a really good public relations idea, and it promoted the use of life vests on children. So it really is a neat program.
Well, when you get a picture of a kid with those T-shirts, send it down here so we can put it on our website and put it in some of our flyers. I think that's a great educational idea. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Seth.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to Bullhead.
The second project, the Bullhead Fire Department is seeking funding for a new fireboat to assist with emergencies along the Colorado River in Bullhead City. Bullhead is seeing almost double the national average in fire and rescue calls along the river. The current fireboat is over 20 years old and is often out due to its service or maintenance. The new boat would certainly allow response to be much quicker with state-of-the-art equipment. The funding would be used for a new boat, motor, and trailer, and staff and AORC recommend fully fund this project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and I believe Forrest is also on the line.
All right, thank you. Chief Forrest Taylor, are you on the line?
Yes, this is Forrest Taylor, Assistant Chief of Bullock Fire. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Any thoughts or comments you'd like to share before we move on this?
Yeah, actually a couple. First and foremost, to Mickey Rogers, I really do appreciate all the correspondence and feedback, the support and willingness to help throughout this process. You really have gone above and beyond for us, and we really, truly do appreciate it. Just in the past year alone, we've had 82 calls on the water, which consist of watercraft accidents and some recoveries, vessel assists, and other search and assists. We have an influx of people coming for the holiday weekends to have a good time on the water, and that's our peak time for responding our boat out in the water for these special events. So a replacement of our current boat will be an astronomical benefit to our community if approved today.
Thank you very much, Chief. And in the written description, and again, because Board Member Debbie Johnson is here, 2 million seasonal visitors are coming to your waters. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. There are so many. We share that river with Laughlin, on the Nevada side, and we do have that amount of influx of people, coming into our area, and we see that peak time and call volume, definitely increase during that time.
Okay, very good. Well, keep safe. We appreciate all the support you do on that. I know that's a huge benefit for us, but I'm sure the service and the pressure that it puts on your department is fantastic. So thank you for joining us. Is there action item for this? Mickey, anything else? No?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Board Member Palmer.
I just want to mention that we are going to have the boat and watercraft safety research report update on this, but I'm astounded at the growth of water. I mean, been an advocate in many uses of water the whole time I've been in Arizona, but it's astounding, the growth. So I would like to move
Please.
that the Arizona State Parks Board approve funding for the 2022 State Lake Improvement Fund grants application that follows: Coconino County voter education and law enforcement in the amount of $387,200, and Bullhead City Fire Replacement Boat in the amount of $275,000.
Motion is on the floor. Thank you very much, Board Member Palmberg. Is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Board Member Johnson. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any further questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Dale Larson.
Aye.
John Sefton.
Aye.
Debbie Johnson.
Aye.
Sarah King.
Aye.
Terry Palmberg.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed.
Thank you very much. And again, Chief Forrest Taylor and Lieutenant Chief Seth Cutchin, thank you for joining us on the call today. And good luck this coming season. I'm sure it's going to be as busy or busier yet. So appreciate you.
Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it.
And
Yeah,
Kathleen,
thank you so much for your generous support.
Thank you, guys.
I didn't want to overlook. Kathleen, are you on the phone too?
Good morning. Hi, yes, this is Kathleen, and I echo everyone's comments that we so appreciate this funding. Without it, we wouldn't be able to have a new boat at all, and we would be in a world of hurt. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I didn't want to overlook you. I know that Mickey gave me your name on it, and we really appreciate all of you joining in on the phone with this. It makes it give it a little more personality and to a real character of what this is about. So congratulations to both of you. All right,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So it is true that BOAT as an acronym is buy one again tomorrow? Look at us.
That's a good one.
I'll add
like
that to the official
I
record.
haven't heard one either. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. All right, Agenda D7, the Heritage Fund Environment and Education Grant Applications.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The Heritage Fund Environmental Education Grant provides matching funds to develop and promote outdoor and environmental education programs related to outdoor recreation. A total of $500,000 was appropriated for the environmental education program during the 2021 Arizona legislative session. Project sponsor may apply for up to 20% of these appropriated funds, or $100,000. In this cycle, there were 2 projects that have been submitted. The first is the Verde Valley Wheel Fund. It's a nonprofit that encourages and promotes after-school programs to get school-aged children off of cell phone and other electronic devices and on mountain bikes. They currently work with 13 public Verde Valley schools and they intend to add at least one club new school annually. The grant request, combined with other funding sources, will be used to fund a full-time professional paid staff to run this program and teach safe and responsible trail use. Responsibilities would include meeting with schools, coaches, principals, and staff, supporting and monitoring club activities, creating and distributing promotional materials for safety outdoors, and also managing the website. The initial phase of this grant will be used to contract with the Sedona Mountain Bike Academy and phase into a full-time staff. Getting youth outdoors certainly was instrumental to the mental health of these youth during the pandemic. These funds will be used all for the salary of this position and matched with $79,048 in other secured funds to add additional months of this full-time position and pay the required payroll taxes. Staff and AARC recommend fully fund this project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And I believe Kevin is also on the line.
Yes. Kevin Adams, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. How is everybody in Phoenix today?
We're doing well. Thank you very much for joining us. Any comments, Kevin, on your request? Does the is the whole notion of the acronym FUN, is that the word FUN, or is it an acronym for FUN?
No, FUN is just what we call ourselves, because
Okay.
that's what we try to have with the kids. And when we started in the fall of 2018, we had 4 schools, public schools. There's 19 here in the Verde Valley, and we had 31 students participating. This March, we're going to add our 14th school, and we're going to have 450 kids participating in our after-school programs, which are at no charge to the students or the schools or the parents. And we're at the point where we're growing so fast that we're just meeting the limits of what volunteers can do, and that's why this grant is so important to us. And I really thank the board for its consideration, and Mickey and Jeff for helping me with the grant.
Excellent. No, we really appreciate it. I think that education and the way you've grown. By the way, in the write-up, it says that you've received a 5-star MTB coaching experience. Can you explain what MTB is, what that acronym is, and how you've been able to get a 5-star?
MTB is just an acronym for mountain bike.
Okay. Mountain bike, got it. Very good. Anyway, congratulations on the work with this, and the education is, it's a relatively modest amount of money considering the monies we've been looking at already today, but the impact will be great. So thank you very much for joining us. Mickey, you want to move on to Wickenburg?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The second project, the Wickenburg Cultural and Conservation Foundation's Leave No Trace video grant, is seeking funds to expand its Leave No Trace program to include Wyatt Meadows video to engage younger members of the community and to reach a much broader audience throughout the state. Students from the local high school, with the assistance of the school's media teacher and a videographer, will shoot videos of why keeping the desert clean matters. This video, once finalized, will be shared with several OHV groups, other school groups, and will be posted on several social media platforms to encourage and reinforce the need for Leave No Trace. If funded, the program has an aggressive timeline to have this completed by August of this year. The immediate target audience will be thousands of people recreating in the Wickenburg area. The funding will be used to contract the final version of the video, the scripting and editing, and for signage and appreciation cards for the students who participate. The foundation is providing up to $5,708 in volunteer match for this project. Staff and AARC recommend to fully fund this project, and I'm not sure if Bernadine is able to make it on the phone or not, but I'd be happy to.
Bernadine is on the line.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Bernadine. Again, modest amount of money considering, but boy, what a wonderful, wonderful approach to marketing and communicating Leave No Trace. Do you have some thoughts for us that you could share about this video?
Yes, so what we decided is that mostly the people who are out there preaching Leave No Trace, they're older people, which of course the younger people don't listen to. So we decided that, if y'all have kids, So we decided that we really need to do something that's going to grab the attention of the younger people who are going to be the stewards of this fantastic desert at some point. So we have a local videographer. He's a professional, and he's working with us. And this is an add-on to the funding that you so graciously gave us for our Leave No Trace program at the Box Canyon, cleaning up surrounding areas. So this is kind of the next step, which gives us a total package.
Mr.
So we
Chair?
really appreciate the support.
Sure, just a minute. Board Member Debbie Johnson, go ahead.
If I could just add, I'm so impressed, Bernadina, with what you're doing. At the Office of Tourism, we're huge supporters of Leave No Trace. And because of what you're talking about, we've learned that the adults are great, but having the kids share that messaging, not just among themselves, but with their parents, with their families, with other adults. We're working on right now to finalize a huge kids Leave No Trace kit, coloring kit. It's got a little booklet to it. It's got puzzle kit. So kind of a fun program for the younger kids to get into Leave No Trace and talk about what it means to take care of our environment around us. It's really going to be a cool program. So I love what you're doing to that, Bernadine.
Well, thank you.
Excellent. And my thought is too, in terms of Bob and your PR group and your website, and certainly with AOT's website as well, I think anything we can do to help promote Leave No Trace. I mean, I think we've all adopted it. We have it all in our bumper stickers. We have it on decals. We have it everywhere. We have it in flyers at trailheads, etc. But you're absolutely right. The older adults seem to understand it for the most part. But kids, this is sort of a new thing. So congratulations. And believe me,
thank you.
I'm not
And
here.
thank you for your support.
I'm not here offering more money, but $8,300 just sounds like a little amount of money. Are you sure you're going to be able to do this video for that? I'm not. We're not going to offer any.
We have lots of volunteers, but if you'd like to give us more.
Mr. Chair, I think that one of the unique aspects to what Bernadette is doing is the engagement of, it's the high school, correct?
Right.
And high school students. So they're integrating this into a learning mechanism with youth to get the message. The message is just the output. The real exercise is teaching and getting the youth involved in video production and message design and the whole. So we're teaching technical skills on one hand, but then turning it into something that's going to be very much replicatable throughout the community, so that getting them involved in the education process is really paramount to this. And it's just like, teaching swim lessons in Wilcox or teaching mountain biking in Verde Valley, that engaging younger people in the teaching of our outdoor recreation and recreational activities is absolutely key. And I thought it really intrigued me in the way that you're working with this in Wickenburg to be able to make this. So yes, leveraging $8,300 is certainly a great approach. And then from a state standpoint and getting the message out, it's really, really paramount that we continue this, and Debbie, your team taking leadership in this role and making it available to the statewide organizations it's incredible. Great work.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. And by the way, Bernadine, planting a little seed in your brain. Arizona Forward does environmental education awards, Crescordia Awards each year, and they have an educational environmental category for these kinds of efforts. So if you haven't already been involved with them, I would suggest go to their website. And when your video is accomplished, to all the points that Vice Chair Sefton just talked about in the collaboration with the schools and getting this out, I would think that you would be a very strong candidate for statewide recognition. So keep it in mind.
Okay. I will check that out. Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, action item on D7.
Mr. Chair, I would like to move that the Arizona State Parks Board approve funding for the 2022 Heritage Fund Environmental Education Grant application as follows. Verde Valley Wheel Fund Program in the amount of $50,000, and Wickenburg Cultural and Conservation Foundation Leave No Trace videos in the amount of $8,300.
Thank you very much. A motion has been made by Board Member Johnson. Is there a second?
John Sefton will second.
Vice Chair Sefton has seconded it. Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Dale Larson.
Aye.
John Sefton.
Aye.
Debbie Johnson.
Aye.
Sarah King.
Aye.
Terry Pomfrey.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed.
Thank you. And to Kevin and Bernadine, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on your awards.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
getting better at not interrupting, on the phone by the time this is all over with.
You're good.
All right, Nikki, it's your show today, I guess. So item D8.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. In fiscal year 2020, the Arizona State Parks Board awarded the city of Chandler $750,000 to develop a new neighborhood park, Homestead Park. The award to the city of Chandler was delayed several months due to the National Park Service backlog of projects and get approval done by then. This delay caused a significant increase in construction costs for the parks once the bids were finalized. The awarded project was to fund walkways, lighting, landscaping, irrigation, basketball court, pickleball court, fencing, site furniture, drinking fountains, a playground, ramadas, and engineering. With the bids coming in higher than anticipated and Chandler performing its due diligence to get as much value engineering out of the bids as possible, the total cost of the lowest bid was almost 18% above the original estimate. Chandler is seeking $139,182 in LWCF funding, matched with $139,182 to complete the project as it was awarded. Again, there is a funding available for this increase, which will allow Chandler to move forward. Staff and AORC are recommending to fully fund this project, to fully fund this amendment increase, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and I believe Mickey Oland is also on the phone.
Very good. Mickey, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Any thoughts on it? I know we're hearing this theme frequently now because of the gap in time and then finally getting the cost. So it's not news, but it's not alarming, but we understand the economics behind it. Do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share with it about Homestead Park?
Sure. Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the board. First, I'd like to thank all of you for your approval of our previous grant amount and your consideration for this amount. Unfortunately, I guess, our crystal ball that we had 2 years ago is a little bit clouded with all the issues that we've dealt with. And we've seen this with a number of projects, with just the volatility of the material cost and the various cost increases that we're just having to deal with. So I'm sure this isn't the only project dealing with it, and hopefully things will level out in the near future.
Thank you, Mickey. Appreciate it very much. And yeah, we do too, but I think that the future. John, go ahead.
Mickey, when was the last LWCF grant submitted through Chandler? Do you know off the top of your head?
Before, not including this one, right?
Yeah.
I believe the last one we did was in 1996 for our Tumbleweed Tennis Center.
Thank you.
I believe so.
Yeah, that sounds probably about right, that we've had such a gap, and we were talking about this gap in LWCF funding and some of the larger cities being able to apply, that it's been quite a while since Chandler's applied for anything, and we appreciate your submittal on this, and obviously it's made its way through here. We too, with my day job, have recognized and made presentations this week that we're recognizing a 35% increase in costs of construction. And it's going to impact everything that we have going on. I don't know that there's necessarily going to be a curtailment of that. We hope that there's going to be some market adjustment, but the importance of these grants and being able to leverage the work that Nikki and staff are doing with state parks is really paramount. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the LWCF.
Sorry about that. I was trying to
Thank you.
get
I
that
move
done.
that the Arizona State Parks approve the Chandler Amendment request funding the increase in the amount of $139,182, establishing the new award amount of $889,182 for this project.
Thank you, Vice Chair Septon. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded by Board Member Palmberg. Are there further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Dale Larson.
Aye.
John Sefton.
Aye.
Debbie Johnson.
Aye.
Sarah King.
Aye.
Terry Palmberg.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed.
Thank you very much. And Mickey, congratulations and good luck on the rest of your getting this project done.
Thank you, and I'd just like to thank the board for your approval, and like others have said prior to me, I'd like to thank Mickey and Jeff for putting up with me and helping me through the process.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you per se, but anyway, that's great, thank you. Hey, there's 2 Mickeys in this meeting, that's pretty good along, so. All right, item D8.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board.
D9, I'm sorry.
The Arizona State Committee on Trails is a 15-member volunteer committee that advises the board on the planning, development, funding, maintenance, and promotion of non-motorized recreation in Arizona. Your group is represented by all non-motorized interests to include hiking, mountain biking, equestrian, and backpacking. ASCOT are responsible for developing Arizona State Trail System, which is now known as Arizona Premier Trails. They also advise the board on non-motorized grants funded with both the Heritage Fund and the Recreational Trails Program. A member's term is for 3 years, and they can serve 2 consecutive terms. There currently are 6 vacancies within ASCOT, as 2 members have served their 2 terms, and 4 others served 1 term each, but due to other duties and responsibilities, elected not to serve a 2nd term. State Park is recommended that Kyle Robb, Linda Slay, Paul King, Nicole Baldocci, Justin Inglis, and Beverly Showalter be approved for members of ASCOT, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Mickey. Board member comments, Terry?
Just to comment, Mickey, what a great diversity of people. It's fabulous. I was amazed at the diversity, and that certainly gives us confidence when we get information submitted to us via this committee. So congratulations.
Yeah, we were happy with the diverse applicants we had.
Other thoughts? Mickey, I just want to echo what Board Member Palmberg has said. I read through the applications, that you all provided for us, and the resume of these people are just incredible. I don't want to pick anyone out, but they're all, healthcare and education, and throughout the entire state of Arizona. So good work on that. And I think in terms of all of the advisory committees that you do have that report to our board on this, the more that we can have an interaction with them and be able to thank them for their service, and certainly send them a letter for this acknowledgement. But congratulations on this recruitment of this cohort. They're very, very, very well qualified.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, with that, is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I would move approval from State Parks to the ASCOT committee of the 6 members as recommended by staff to serve from 2022 through 2024.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Because this isn't the financial term, we'll just do it by acclamation. All the board members in favor of the roster of the new ASCOT members signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. All right, Dawn, get to come up and tell us more about boating.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be here with you today to talk about this study. It's been a long time coming. Before I start, I'd really like to acknowledge all the members of the Technical Advisory Committee. So this study is a collaboration between Arizona State Parks and Trails and Arizona Game and Fish Department. So I'd like to recognize Danny Rodriguez, our lieutenant in the Watercraft Law Enforcement and Programs Coordinator at Game and Fish Department. So Danny, please stand up. Really, he's worked with us for years and done a whole lot of work. Juggling law enforcement on lakes and this study, and so thank you, Danny, for your commitments. Yeah, we've all learned a lot.
Ups and downs. We made it to the finish line.
That's true. That's true. And Gene Elms, the law enforcement branch chief, also was a part of this group as well. And then I would like to introduce to you my co-presenter, Deb Pryor, the president and CEO of Partners in Brainstorms, whose agency collected the data for us and authored the report, and Debbie Myers, who is the editor and author, primary editor and author. So with that, let's get started. And we recognize your agenda today is quite full, so we're going to try and hit the highlights for you, and then we look forward to any questions that you might have about the report. So just to remind you, it's been a while since we've talked to you about this report. So the primary purposes of this study is to kind of determine the number of days of recreational watercraft use on all of Arizona's lakes and waterways. And that information is used to both inform other statewide planning processes like the SCORP, and also to allocate some funding in both Game and Fish's and our agencies. And so also while we're doing that, though, while we're talking to boaters, we also want to find out something about kind of their attitudes, their experiences, and some behavioral data. What are they doing when they're out boating? Also, we collected demographic information for the first time this study. Oh, you flipped right by. Can we go back one? I was like, hey, I'm done here. Done. Okay, so there were some methodological changes in the 2021 study. So this used to be a report that was in statute. It was taken out of statute, and Game and Fish and State Parks continued to work on it because we saw the value of it to our agencies. But in order to better match kind of the current needs and intent to current survey methodologies, we did a tweak in the methodological approach this year. So we focused in on Arizona registered boat owners, which is kind of typical of our statewide planning processes. And so we get to know more about what Arizonans are doing for this study. The previous studies focused on Arizona boat owners, which were only 47% of respondents, California boat owners, 38% from 5 counties in California, and Nevada and Utah also. So we're going to be talking about Arizonans today and Arizonans' use of waterways. This survey was conducted primarily online, but also with telephone, both landline and cell phone usage. People were able to fill out the survey using whatever media they preferred, so they could use their smartphone, their tablet, their laptop, computer, all kinds of things. And we used multiple outreach communication channels in order to get people to participate. So both Game and Fish and State Parks used our e-newsletters. We put up flyers at the top 10 lakes from the 2016 study to try to get participation that way. Social media posts from both agencies. So we tried to use every channel that we could think of in order to get the information that Deb is going to tell you about now. So with that, we're going to kind of switch off back and forth.
Very good.
Well, thanks, Don, and thanks, Mr. Chair, and also members of the board. As I go through this, I really want this to be interactive. So if you have any questions as we're going through the key points, by all means, just ask away. So one of the things that we wanted to call your attention to is that we essentially doubled the number of Arizona boaters that participated in the survey in 2021 versus previous years. And one of the things is that, as Don referenced, we also added key demographic data, which had not been asked in previous studies. So we have a better understanding and can also target more marketing specific messages. We also added yes.
Got a quick question. What do you attribute such a significant increase to? Is it the way you distributed and requested survey information, or?
Yeah, I can take that. So this study, years prior, we split it up between the 4 target states, so California, Arizona. So the reason that Arizona is so high on this year is because we targeted solely on Arizona residents.
Oh.
So we really, like taking your zoom lens and.
Okay. And the other thing too, we expanded, this was very much of, rather than saying to someone, you can only participate in the survey online, or you can only do this, we looked at every possible touch point. I mean, being able, if you're at a park that has boating, capabilities, being able to use your smartphone to scan the QR code. So there's different ways that we looked at in terms of really updating the methodology.
One other source that we utilized was emails through our Game and Fish registration information. So that was a huge contributor to our overall success.
Nice. Cool. Thank you.
And that was actually, and that's really a core audience that we wanted to make sure that we reached. And again, the comments were from Arizona boaters, and this is really what's representative of the primary customer. So if you go to the next slide, one of the things here is when we look at the fact that Arizona Game and Fish, basically, it's when you look at boater registration, it's motorized boats and personal watercrafts. So that's why we have 90% of the participants were motorized in terms of, but we also included non-motorized. So we got those that are basically, river in terms of, non-motorized boating. When you look at the owner, the next slide, okay. This is something we have to watch. I just read a 300-page Coast Guard's report, and one of the things that's changing when it comes to boating is renting or leased or used or borrowed. And they said this is going to double within the next 2 years. And there's a lot of ramifications to that, especially when it comes to boating safety when you look at motorized boats. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit further. But this age group that is renting or leasing is the 18 to 44. And there are also a higher percentage that haven't had any boating safety courses and aspects of that. So we're going to watch this because it does have ramifications. If we go to the next one, you can see here that overall boat and watercraft use in Arizona continues to rise. And when you look at it from going from 2016 to 2021, and these are those who have basically boated within the last 12 months when they took the survey. Okay. So we asked them, individuals, there was about 10% of those who participated who had not used their boat in the last 12 months. And we asked them why. They basically identified as COVID and specifically stay-at-home orders. And too busy and no time always appears in all the previous studies. So that's in line with what we've seen. But one of the things that did go up, this study versus previous studies, is too crowded. And specifically on, we captured data on over 100 lakes and rivers. And it's a universal comment. And so, the next slide. So when we asked those how boat and watercraft use affected by COVID, of those individuals who reported that the pandemic had affected their boat use, 22% said it had increased their usage, whereas 78% said it had decreased. And one of the things that we see is a direct correlation in terms of age. What is interesting, and it's somewhat we saw in other habits in terms of recreational, you see as the person ages, their decreased usage, and this was the same thing, especially relative to COVID. Okay, so next slide. So one of the things here is we're looking at what we call apples to apples comparisons. So we're looking at 2021 data to past Arizona data for the previous studies. And when you look at total days using a boat or watercraft, in 2021 the mean was about 18.1 days, which there was a decrease from 2016. But what was interesting, and we'll see this a little bit more, is when you look at where boaters and registered boaters are in Arizona, there was a lot of day trips. Like, where can I go, especially during COVID, where can I go, leave early, boat, and return. So that's why we're looking at in terms of number of days. But what's interesting here, in the next slide, if we look at total boat or watercraft trips, basically they were about the same. So they're taking the trips. First of all, more people are, 90% are basically going out boating within Arizona registered boaters, and also just boaters, including non-motorized. But if you look at trips, it's about the same as 2016. So the next thing, this is something that's going to be really interesting to see if it continues as we pass through COVID. What the boating industry is calling this is a phenomenon. They're calling it the family boat bubble. And so what people are able to do is they're able to go out with their families in the boat, distance from other boaters, but what's happened is the number of people that are in that boat has increased. So there's extended family members in there, friends, etc. So when we look at the number of people in the group, one of the things that we did is we looked at every lake and river. So you can see here where the majority of, in terms of at Grand Canyon, when we asked them how many people were they with, almost 8.7. And you can see Lake Powell, Lake Mead. So things like rafting down the Colorado at Grand Canyon, houseboats, in terms of Lake Powell, Lake Mead. So a lot of that is going, we're seeing that. And one of the things that the industry is saying also is that boats are flying off the shelves. So it's definitely, right, to use an acronym. But, so the next slide is, now we're getting into the real data. So this represents the top 10 Arizona waterways, which represents 2.2 million or 74% of total boat use days, or 10.6 million or 77% of total person use days. So Lake Havasu. Lake Havasu. All I can say is Lake Havasu. 30% of the respondents visited Lake Havasu at least once during the past 12 months. 19% of the respondents identified it as their most visited lake or river in the past 12 months. It accounts for 22% of the total boat use days. And the other thing too is, in talking with Game and Fish and for Danny's guidance, we allocated 90% of Lake Havasu to Mojave County and 10% to La Paz. But you can see here, these are the top 10. So if we go to the next slide. So one of the things that we wanted, okay, go ahead.
I have a quick question. Lake Mojave, that's been years since I was there, but in the old days, people would come and then they'd just put their big canopy on the ground and leave for the week, and then they'd come back to their big canopy on the ground and their space was safe. Are they still allowing that?
No, I don't know the answer to
That
that.
is a very good question. I don't know the answer to that as well.
I can find out for you.
I do know that because of lake levels, it's definitely impacted a lot of the lakes up there. But, yeah, I could get you an answer. But I have no idea.
I was just curious, because that makes a difference. I mean, even way back when, you could sometimes not even find a place to go during the middle of the week because everyone's canopies were down.
I did spend some time on that lake this past summer for patrol, and I do not recall very many people setting up canopies.
I think they outlawed it.
At least on the, like near the
The
main
shoreline.
access point they did, like a little beach area, but further in they did it.
Okay.
Is that, I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
That's what I'm referring, I mean,
Oh,
they
yes, and that's-
surrounded the lake.
It's, in the first little stretch, probably within the first couple hundred yards, they were doing that, but after that, it just kind of died out.
Okay, thank you.
So one of the ways in
One,
which.
one other quick question on those incredible numbers. What about the California influence during COVID? I mean, they shut down everything, and so much of their visitorship came over us. So were you able to determine California registered boats versus Arizona registered boats, or not?
So our marching orders at the beginning of the study was to replicate past studies, and we set out to do that. Based on several difficulties, like enhanced privacy laws of California, increased times to get the lists of registered voters from California, and the increased expense to get. So we were unable to, we spent a good 6 to 9 months, maybe 12, trying to get data from California, and we're unable to do so. So what I would say is that this data focuses on Arizona, but State Parks does have some visitor survey data from the Havasu State Park, Buckskin Mountain State Park, that does kind of reflect what those percentages are of people from out of state versus people from in-state. This is in 2020, so this is the year before this data was collected, but still it gives us an idea. So we do have alternative data sources that might lead us to what that impact is.
So some educated guess that of that percentage of increases during the COVID thing, we know would have been California participating that perhaps may go back to California as this pandemic works its way out.
Right, one thing to keep in mind also is that we collected data during the summer of 2021, so those stay-at-home orders have been lifted and California lakes were then also
We're
open
open
again.
then, okay.
So we might not have seen that impact in 2021 that we probably saw in 2020 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr.
Same
Chair.
challenges apply to Nevada and Utah as well.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely, with Lake Mead and.
So as Donna mentioned, we spent a good part of 2020 to 21 trying so hard to reach out to their staff. We went through different sources, but ultimately they all gave us the same answer. Due to privacy laws, they were not able to distribute this information, despite the fact we tried selling it. This project is also law enforcement driven. Like, we need this data for my funding, or for the department funding, so we've allocated to the counties. Despite that, they were not gonna cooperate.
It was gonna be 12 to 18 months, and then all of the California requests went above ours in line, so we still actually haven't heard from them.
Yeah. I mean, we're still waiting. Get the formal request
So,
in.
so some of it was a pivot kind of thing.
That's interesting.
Regarding.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, what happened during COVID was that, and this is where those numbers could be misleading.
Skewed a little bit.
Because if you had California boaters would access through California or Nevada through Nevada, what happened when California and Nevada closed their boat ramps, including a lot of the Indian tribes along the river. So what we saw was them coming across the river and launching from Arizona, and it made it look like the California invasion, when they could have truly been just annual boaters that used that. They just changed their access point, and it made it look like we were getting invaded. We were, but we were the only ones with boat ramps open, and so that's could be problematic when you start looking at trying to get that data. So would it be worth it? And there'd be certainly be biases with it. So.
Okay, appreciate that. No, I just, I mean, that's the elephant in the room, is
Right.
What impact did that make for the future now?
Yeah, it impacted the boat ramps for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, and cities along our side of the river.
Well,
no
and
doubt.
particularly when we've heard these requests for new boats from the different units because of emergency purposes, and the
Yeah.
huge number of areas that goes with the counties and with different agencies, so.
Right.
It all makes sense.
Actually, this slide speaks directly to that. This shows you, Arizona Game and Fish Department uses this money to distribute the law enforcement boating safety fund monies, which are, the counties that are eligible are the blue counties on that map. And you can see that our top 10 lakes and rivers in terms of boat use days are all represented kind of, and clustered, and this was probably a COVID phenomenon, probably the clusters in some cases. So you can see that all of the counties that are eligible to receive monies, kind of, the lakes are represented in those counties.
Are those ranked by nature of how much funding they are received?
No, how their level of boat use days.
So it's usage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And one of the things too is if you look at the, we still had Mojave and La Paz, and those are actually, 4, 1, 7, 10. When you look at that, it's basically Lake Havasu and Parker Strip, but you have 4 state parks that are along there. So that's another factor. I mean, when you look at, you have 13 state parks that basically all the numbers, there wasn't a decline in one of them, and they're in the top 35. Most of them are actually in the top 12. So that's a key factor. And the other thing I just want to make a point is when you look at the clustering too around Maricopa. Maricopa has 62% of the population according to the 2020 census, and it has over half of the registered voters in Arizona. So they're going out from Maricopa, and many times we're doing early morning trips to return. So okay, so next.
To leave it, yeah.
This is where the numbers become. So this 2020, 2021 Arizona, the first column is boat use days, and this is Arizona. We did a direct comparison to 2016 Arizona. And then we also looked at 2016 for all 4 states, so that factors in all 4 states. What's interesting here is that essentially everything went up except for La Paz, which when you do the Arizona comparison and also the multi-state. And so if you, visually, if you go to the next slide, this shows it a little bit more graphically. You can see here, the blue bar is the 2021 Arizona. So in basically, when you're looking at these top counties, other than La Paz, all of them showed increase just among Arizona voters versus 4 years ago among all 4 states. So you have a growing voter community in this state, clearly. So, okay. So the next slide, one of the things, and we talked about Maricopa, but just wanted to highlight a couple things. So if you look at Lake Pleasant, Sororo, Barker, Canyon Lake, and these are in the top 10. The other thing too is with Maricopa County, the fourth most populous county in the country. Again, these voters are going out from Maricopa, so, and they're clearly accessing all the available voting opportunities within the state. Okay, so next. So let's talk about decline in boat use days at other Arizona lakes, likely due to water levels. Want to point out 2 things: Lake Mojave and Lake Mead. Lake Mojave dropped from was number 3rd in 2016 to 10th in 2021. Lake Mead went from 7th to 19th. And we heard this continuously in all the open ends and even in the phone interviews, is that they are clearly saying that Lake Mead specifically, I mean, it's at levels that are the lowest water levels since the Hoover Dam was completed and its reservoir was filled in the 1930s. So has never been this low. So that has affected boat ramps, that has affected a lot of the visitation, and not only that, but they don't want to make the trip if they have to wait for basically National Park Service has said that of the 8 available ramps, 3 are currently closed and 3 others are down to 1 lane due to construction. So you only have 2 out of 8 ramps. Okay, so if you go to the next, these are activities that they're doing as they're boating. Basically, pleasure boating is about 61%, fishing, tubing, canoeing, water skiing. So those are some of the top ones, and we see that tubing and canoeing and kayaking has actually increased from the previous years. And that's one of the things too, is including non-motorized boats really got us additional information that wasn't available in previous years. All right, so next. So, all right, let's get into boating safety. Boating safety. So of those who we've surveyed, 48% had taken a boating safety class. But it increases with each age group. So the younger age groups have not taken any boating class. And among respondents who have not taken a boating safety, the highest percentage was among those 25 to 34. So one of the things I really want to stress here, among those individuals, and this is Coast Guard data, of those who take a boating safety class, it can be online, it can be in person, it can be blended, they have a 70% less chance of having an accident, a boating accident, 70%. So that's something that, and many states are thinking about mandating.
Wisconsin does.
Yeah, quite a few do.
For some early age groups, especially.
And California's rolling that out now. So, all right, so next, and we'll go through these fairly quickly. The invasive species, yes, they are aware. A lot of it is at the point in terms of a lot of marketing is being done at like Lake Powell and other, and with the Don't Move a Muscle campaign seems to be working very well. Right, so I'm gonna basically go through, we're concluding here with some suggestions. We over 1 million data points, and registered voters were very, I mean, we had some phone interviews that went for over an hour just because of their suggestions and things like that. So they are a very sharing group, okay, let's put it that way. But one of the things we asked, and we closed, is if you can make one recommendation or suggestion that would help improve your boating and personal watercraft experience on Arizona lakes and rivers, what would that be? They clustered around 4 themes. Facilities and maintenance needs, we have that specific to each of the lakes and rivers. Boating safety and education, accessibility for seniors and individuals with disabilities, and communication administrative services. So I'm just gonna highlight a few of the recommendations. So within the facilities, they want real-time information. One of the things that they were saying is consider expanding the use of webcams. They would like to log in and see just how low is the water? How long do I have to wait for the boat ramp? You know, it's one of those things, they want to visually see it as opposed to getting, you know, some of the written reports. And then also, due to low water levels, extend boat ramps further into the water. I mean, these are very expensive boats. And several of the boat owners had said that they had damage because of just literally drop-offs, because the boat ramps aren't going far enough. Improve security, like in parking lots, also restrooms were mentioned. Provide shuttles closer to the launch points, especially for those seniors or individuals with disabilities. And there was a lot of emphasis that volunteers, they were interested in, you know, cleaning up and conserving the area. All right, so boating safety. This is really very interesting. We're seeing a lot of states now require, because of all these accidents that are occurring with rental boats, that they are requiring renters, like in Georgia, to watch a 10-minute boater education video and then sign a checklist before they're allowed to take that boat out on the water.
Good.
We're seeing that increasing in many, many states, many in the Midwest, in the lake areas, but also Florida and some other ones are looking at it. But this one is one that's touted. The other thing is posting videos, and currently there are videos on that, but they'd like to see more videos in terms of boating safety, also provide to boating clubs and organizations, and watercraft retailers and rental operators. I mean, it's in the rental operators' best interest because it reduces their liability.
Is there anything in the works along that line from a regulation standpoint for Arizona?
So, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, currently our department has not pushed any type of video on any of the rental companies. However, Bullhead City has enacted a city ordinance where they require anybody renting from a rental company within city limits to watch a video before they take the jet skis out. We've had discussions with some of the counties in trying to push this, but ultimately falls back on the rental companies to accept this at this point unless we push some kind of legislation to try to force it upon them, which has always been met with opposing forces and it usually gets shot down whenever we try to put additional regulations on something, including like boating education. Our department has submitted that a few times and it's always been shot down. I know this coming legislative session is going to be brought up again. It's starting to gain some steam from the National Marine Manufacturers Association. So they're starting to get involved, and so we're encouraging that group to lobby for that specific topic to our legislators, and it's started. So we're supposed to meet with our legal folks, our legislative liaisons to discuss this topic, so they're not so that our department is not fully in the dark when it comes up.
Yeah, no, we need,
But
both departments need to be a part of it.
That was probably a very long way of saying it's on our radar, but it hasn't been pushed yet.
We're also seeing some states take a state initiative where they'll create a video and they create what is known as a GONA. So they'll have, you know, a video and they'll have like 10%, 10 to 20% that you can customize it. So you can show like the wake zones and that lake and things like that. And that also increased participation because they were able to customize, but the majority of it was funded by through grants, federal grants, actually, state level. So this is the other thing that they talked about, is also expand promotional efforts regarding availability and convenience of online boat and watercraft education courses. And we had seen that the majority of those that we surveyed would basically access boating through online channels. And so to communicate what the benefits of that are. All right. The other aspect is currently you have to renew your basically your registration every year. So there's a move to, well, let's say there's a move among boat users that they would prefer it maybe an every 3-year option. And then, so that concludes, that basically concludes, this is highlighted information, so there's a lot more there, but it basically provides you an overview.
That's awesome.
Go ahead, John.
Just a quick question on, you mentioned, Don, that it was taken out of state statute as a requirement. How is it now funded, and is that the study itself?
Right, so typically SLIP funds have been used in the past to fund it, and this year we also received a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant that funded it, since it was a statewide study. Yes, but SLIP traditionally was the funding.
Okay, historically it was through SLIF?
Yes.
That is a state appropriation, correct? And now we're
No,
utilizing.
no.
It was proportionate taxes taken from watercraft use on Arizona. So it used to be used in order to calculate the percentage that would go into SLIF from gas taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
And fund watercraft.
But it's non-appropriated.
It's not appropriated, okay.
Terry, go ahead.
I'm not sure who can answer this, because you guys did this study. Have we looked in our launch areas? I know that larger boats take a lot more time to launch. It's like, if your boat is this size, you can get into these lanes faster, and have we laned that out so that our smaller boats that drop in 10 minutes and they're out fishing versus those big ones that take forever?
Yeah, no, I think some parks do a great job at trying to manage the the demand and access. So it's usually first come, first serve. It's a long line, small boat, big boat. And so we're trying to manage. During COVID, it was a restriction on the numbers according to parking spaces and the social distancing, stuff like that. But for the most part, it's no, but it has been talked about.
Yeah, seems to me it's.
But to me, you know, in talking to a lot of folks that are along the Colorado River, it's number of boat ramps is the limiting factor there. Is you've got so many people with so many years of experience that the difference, whether it's a small boat, we've seen them jackknifed on boat ramps, even a little, you know, small boat. So it's really hard, but I know we started looking at that for the state parks, is how can we speed this process up, but still be safe, so. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, just to add to that, as we went through this study, since I've taken this position in January 2020, I've noticed, just reviewing boating accidents, there's a lot of inexperience out there. Just to add to what Executive Director Bush had mentioned, to have more lanes would definitely benefit boaters overall, because there's a lot of inexperience when it comes to backing a boat up.
Yeah.
And to take a $80,000 to $100,000 boat that's like 10 feet wide or more, that's actually a lot. So that's definitely something our agencies can definitely look at to try to improve, at least on the state park side.
Well, and it also goes to why rentals and leases are more, because people don't have the experience of doing that, and then they rent it and the like. Your survey in the DIP doesn't identify boating accidents, injuries, deaths, etc. My assumption is, in order to gain some more momentum for legislation that would get Arizona onto the area, that we should start talking about what's the negative of what's happening in our areas. It's increasing. I assume those numbers are up as well, correct?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, all the boating accidents recorded in Arizona are run through my shop. So I have the final review of all of those, and I submit those to the Coast Guard. And to answer your question, yes, they've been on the rise for the last 2 years. 2020 was definitely an anomaly year because we had well over 210 boating accidents that year. This past summer for 21, it was around 157 or 160, and I still have about 14 more to review because my deadline is February to get those to the Coast Guard. So we did see a little bit of a drop, but 2020 was definitely a crazy year because everybody was buying boats that year.
Right.
And they're also purchasing non-motorized like kayaks, all kinds of inflatables, stand-up paddleboards.
Yeah.
And we've already seen 2 fatalities that are contributed to people on non-motorized because they didn't have a life jacket.
Yeah.
So there's definitely an increase in overall use, but I do have all that data. And the problem also is, well, I guess not really a problem. The Coast Guard requirements are different from our state requirements. Ours are a little, I don't want to say stricter, but like the damage amounts, for example. If the boat received $2,000 of damage, that's a reportable incident. If it's under that, it goes to the state. So I do have all that data available if we needed to push something.
I would just think it'd be helpful, right? I mean, in terms of the, go ahead.
Who do you give that to? Who in the legislature or in the state level, who reviews those numbers? Anyone?
The last report I submitted to my liaison, I can't remember the name of the person we shared it with, but I know there's folks that have requested that data since I've been in this position.
Well, I would just think in order to round out the whole story, right? I mean, and I'm not trying to be an extremist when it comes to the boating, but accidents, injuries, drownings, et cetera, are only going to happen. And so maybe that helps push the education, especially among young people who aren't as
No, I totally agree. And like mentioned earlier, the rentals is another issue.
Oh,
that's addressed. Next week I have a conference that actually mentioned that in one of my videos. Because everybody that is purchasing watercraft, whether it's motorized, non-motorized, are renting them out. So here in Arizona, you're required to register as a livery if you want to have a rental business. Well, these Craigslisters, Facebook Craigslist folks are renting out these vessels illegally, and that's definitely been on the rise. Like you can go on your phone, search anybody, go buy these brand new boats, and intentionally just rent them out without purchasing a business license or registering as a livery. So it's definitely becoming.
Sounds like a good newspaper article.
One last point, I noticed in the desired outcomes was more volunteer time cleaning up the shorelines. And I think there's a direct correlation to the rental market and just the lack of users, the leave no trace messaging and things along that line. So we have registered boaters who expect staff to coordinate volunteer time to clean up the trash along the shoreline.
That they're producing.
And then there's, so there's a disparity between the type of users, and I think that's in our entire outdoor areas, but there is a point there. So along this, where part of our discussion is like, what's the right initiative for us to look at? Is it legislation? Is it action within the 2 departments that can, or is it support for, like I know Peoria has support on our lake, and the response, the emergency response to accidents. I'm part of the Drowning Prevention Coalition and things like this. It's real, and our lives depend upon it. And we put uninformed, uneducated people on water, there's going to be tragedy. So as part of that, what are the next steps? What are the initiatives that need to happen? Is this something that comes from a statement from us that supports staff to be able to say, hey, these things are important. We need to pay attention to the illegal activity just from a business standpoint, but the practical aspect of education and practice out there, and all the procedures and things. Is there an approach that we should be taking?
I agree. I think that's something that we can do to get the discussion rolling and getting out there. It may not be necessarily this session on it, but it's something that needs to plant that seed, because my guess is most legislators aren't aware of this. They just don't know.
I agree.
Yeah, and so it's just something, so.
I can speak also, those states that did implement something in terms of the boating safety initiative, either with renters and things, they actually saw an increase in tourism.
Yeah.
Because the other boaters that surrounded the states that saw the fact that the state was making that initiative, they felt better as boat owners to boat on those lakes.
Can I just ask a quick question, Mr. Chair? And you may be able to, is there a boating safety page or a water safety page for people, whether it's a motorized or because as tourism, we would love to share that page on our website. If not, I'm happy to help create one, help create a video that we could share with people before they went out.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, we do have information on our website. It's in the process of being updated because it is outdated. We have links to the voting education course online, and just basic generic information, but it really needs a makeover. And we're in the process of addressing that.
And I think what Debbie's suggesting, they can put it on their website.
Right, we can
do
share it
on
socially,
ours, and-
like,
yeah.
we're happy to help do that.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure you get my contact information, so once that's updated and you're ready, we're happy to help share it. We're happy to help produce a video that we could all share, about water safety and even just some of that little basic information.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I'd love to see our data resulting in action.
Yeah.
Well
We
said,
need
yeah,
to.
data
That's
to action,
fantastic.
that's the point.
That's
Yes.
right.
So is there any other questions for us?
Coconino County needs to do more T-shirts.
Thank you.
All right,
guys.
thank you very much, Debbie, Dawn, Danny, thank you all very good. All right, Brittany, come on up and tell us session's in session, and good news so far, I guess, and I'm sure the director has some reports on that as well.
I'm hoping it'll be good news for the rest of session. I think so.
Yeah.
But good morning, members of the board. My name is Brittany Hudson, just for the record, legislative liaison with Parks. So just first update, I did a update about our rules last month.
Right.
And I sent out the rules to the members late December, early January. I had some good feedback from you all, and I did a one-on-one with one of the board members here. So I just wanted to update if anybody else needs a one-on-one or wants a meeting with me on the rules, please let me know, and we can sit down in person, virtually, and we can go over them. My plan is to have a complete draft approved by the board by February, so I'm going to update the rules with the suggestions that were made by the board. I'll send that out to you guys again. You can review it. If there are more suggestions and I need to change something, I'll do that. But my plan is to have the February draft approved by the board so I can move forward and post and do everything I need to with the Secretary of State's office. So that's my plan. If you do have any more questions or concerns about that, please let me know. Okay, I'll move on to summary of legislation. So I don't have a slide, fancy slide, but I did send you guys, Kelly put that in there.
You got it, right.
So I don't
It should
know.
be in your packets.
I don't know if you guys want me to just run through them, they're not a lot, or if you have just questions on them, and I can answer any questions that you may have. I don't wanna take up any extra time. So however you guys wanna do it.
Some of these are carryovers from last
They
session,
are.
correct?
So House Bill 2038 is a carryover from last session. That bill is in conjunction with the governor's office, so that we'll see how that goes by the end of next session. House Bill 2130 is a new bill that I've seen. I'll just read the beginning part. It states that a landowner, easement holder, leasee, tenant manager, or occupant of private or public land does not owe a duty of care to keep the land safe for entry by others for recreational or educational purposes. I'll stop there. This bill does include non-governmental and governmental entities, so that's why I included it for us to watch out for. It may affect us, it may not. Not quite sure, but I wanted to put this on our list. I believe this has something to do with OHV recreation on certain lands. Not quite sure the backstory, but I know Griffin is running this bill, and I want to keep an eye out for it.
It might be helpful. I was looking at that because even in our classes, we teach the recreational use statute to our students because it is the indemnification, whole notion of negligence and who's responsible and who's not responsible. And it's an extremely complicated, long law as it is. So it might be good to get the current version of the recreational use statute to see how this new one relates to that because it affects all of us. I mean, it affects us in our parks, it affects us in throughout any of our public lands in terms of primarily liability to these people. So I get the fact that people don't want to be liable for accidents that take place on their property, but it's far more complicated than just a statement. I mean, it really goes into the litigation of what that's all about.
Sure, I can take a look at that also. I haven't looked at that.
Yeah, the recreational use statute, and I believe it's pretty universal. I mean,
It's very universal.
Yeah.
And but it is, I think, an important nature, state trust land as well.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
think they've
clearly.
got some experience with that too. So yeah, it's definitely a good one to keep an eye on.
Yep.
And perhaps influence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next one, House Bill 2453. I think that would go with all governmental agencies, so I'm putting out a watch on this one. It states that a governmental entity may not impose any requirement to wear a mask or face covering anywhere on the governmental entity's premises, except where workplace safety and infection control measures are unrelated to COVID may be required. So definitely watching out for that one and seeing where that one goes. The last two, HCR 2019 is a House concurrent resolution, and SCR 1010 is a Senate concurrent resolution, and these are the same as last session.
Right.
Arizona Get Outdoors Initiative and Arizona Outdoors Recreation Supporting Initiative, just requiring members to get out, recognize the outdoors and the need for the outdoors and promoting a healthy lifestyle. So that's coming up again. Not sure where it's going to lead, but definitely want to keep an eye out for those as well. So that's all I have right now. There are more bills coming that may affect us. I don't have that information at the moment, but I will be up here every month just to give a quick update of what's going on at the legislature. So I'll have more, I'm sure. So, any questions or concerns?
Board members, anything? And on your first pitch about the rules, yes, please encourage any of you to meet up with Brittany and Tim and to talk about it. We had our one-on-one, and it was very eventful to talk through what that process is in case you have any thoughts or comments. So take advantage of it if you can. But thank you, Brittany.
No, Mr. Chair, then, and
Yeah.
the other piece that Brittany's going to be doing is also walking Sarah through the confirmation process this year. So she's got that work to do, and I know they've met this week. And then the second is we are, for the first time in a long time, we're having a legislative day, and we've got a date for Arizona State Parks to join our partners, which certainly Game and Fish and tourism are our critical state partners in this, but we're going to do a really cool legislative day down at the Capitol. Talk to legislators. You know, you've seen the tents and everything.
Do you have the date?
What is the date?
April 5th,
April
Tuesday,
5th.
April 5th. Committees are over, and then members will be down there. That's probably around budget time, budget negotiations, and things like that. So I think they'll still be there. They'll
Yep.
still be around. So we can do anything on that day. We can have, I don't know if we can do lunch, but as much as we can do, we'll try. But we'll definitely have all of our information out there for all the members to view.
Well, we can certainly have boating safety pamphlets.
Absolutely.
When they come out there.
But
so.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll send a
you.
reminder
And
to
t-shirts. Thank you very much.
He wants a t-shirt.
All right, so to Sheila and James, thank you for your patience. And this is always a highlight of our meetings, is to be able to, at least virtually and in person, be able to talk about the wonderful parks that we have out there. So Sheila, you're up, and James will be second.
So, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, thank you for inviting us to come down here. And when I say us, I mean all of us. So one of the things I was trying to think of how we could best represent the fort, and a lot of people say that they haven't been there before. So, so pictures speak a lot better than words sometimes. And so what I'm trying to do is give a snapshot, like literally with all the pictures, of the history of the fort, just a brief history, because I know that you have a full agenda today. So, but again, on behalf of Fort Verde, we're grateful and thankful to be here to present. So, so literally, because we're telling a story, that's why we have a little book. And I want to thank Kelly for helping with finalizing the presentation, because I was trying to find what would be the exact right thing to do just to kind of tell the story with the theme. And it's a story that encompasses so many different cultures, so many different things, when you really look at the entire history of the fort. So And the picture on the left, if you go
Sorry.
back to the, that's okay.
My apologies.
It's that, and I did slow down the speed on the page turning thing too on the animation, by the way. It's really quick. So, site history on the left, you have General George Crook, and I don't have a pointer. I've got a pen, but there's General George Crook up there, and then on the right is Al Chassé. He was the chief of the Indian Scouts, and so he was kind of a right sidekick, helping out General Crook there. On the right-hand side over here are officers in front of what is commanding officers' quarters today that you can actually still go through and you can see it today. Down here you see the ladies, the officers' wives. They are riding side saddle. I don't know, I don't have a horse, but I don't know if any of you have tried riding side saddle, but it's not an easy task. And before I continue with the presentation, I should say, I'm Sheila Stubler, Park Manager. I've been at Fort Verde for 19 years and 6 months and 2 days, but I'm not counting. So, and the part of the thing is that there's so much to share. So I might bounce back and forth just because when I was going through the pictures the past 19 years, as well as pictures of yearbooks and things from 1965, 1970, from Camp Verde, there was so much, and I was like, how do I whittle this down? So thank you for your patience and bearing with me as I kind of go back and forth. So these are some of the buildings. The military originally came out at the request of the civilians and farmers, so that's why they came out to the area. The previous post had to close because of an outbreak of malaria, so they ended up here at Fort Verde. It was called Camp Verde, and they changed the name to Fort Verde to show that it was a permanent fort. The picture that you see in the upper left-hand side, that is the cavalry, and that's in front of some of the original buildings that were torn down. So out of the 55 acres, the 22 buildings, we have 4 of those buildings left, but unfortunately those buildings were torn down and people needed to make furniture, they needed to build homes out of the fort, the wood. We actually had a couple that donated a table back to us. Their grandfather was a carpenter, so they came in one day and they said, yeah, we've got this table we'd like to donate, and I asked them how it tied into the fort, and they said, well, it was some of the wood from one of your buildings, one of your barracks buildings, and so I thought that was kind of cute that they donated it back to us. The bottom picture right here, this is an enlistment's barracks building, and those are the infantry. Now, one of the things that people don't realize is 90% of the folks that were stationed at Fort Verde were infantry. You always hear about the cavalry. So when we get veterans that come through the fort, they say, well, this is great, you've got the officers, but what about the infantry? I served infantry. And so that's on our master plan. You'll see that coming up. That's one of the things I pulled out from the 1996 master plan at the fort. So that's basically what it looked like. And then on the upper right-hand side, if any of you have complained about your ambulance services, well, that was the ambulance service back then. So, and hopefully you can see it, if you can zoom in on it, if you get a chance to look at these pictures a little bit more, they're pretty, it's just interesting to see. Thank you. So 55 acres, 22 buildings. The forts were a cookie cutter layout fort. You had officers on one side, the other side was the enlistment, and then you had your commissary, and probably check out that on our website a little bit later when you have more time. But one of the things that's interesting is enlisted men were discouraged from bringing their spouses. The military pretty much said to the enlisted men, if we wanted you to have a wife, we would have issued you one. And so that's how they looked at it, because they wanted the enlisted men to focus on the job at hand, and they didn't want them to be distracted. Plus, financially, it was another mouth to feed. So you didn't want to have to do that. So, so now the officers, on the other hand, if the wives were brave enough to follow their husbands out here and come with them, they were in the officers' quarters, and so they wanted their officers to feel as much at home as possible. So it was a pretty desolate post, no Circle K's, nothing like that. So so there was not a lot to do. So that whole sense of doing more with less comes into play, because back then that's what they did. They didn't have a Game Boy. They didn't have all these things that we have today. They played with old-fashioned wood toys, things like that, and so what's neat is we get to bring that back to families. Can you go back to the
yes,
other
I'm sorry.
picture? I'm sorry. I wouldn't be from Wisconsin if I didn't show a picture of a cow. This was the company cow that was stationed at Fort Verde. The only way you got a glass of milk around there was if you were recovering from a surgery or an illness. So we're fortunate we had one of those. And then up here, it shows a picture of the fort. And if I can, here's an up-close picture, and I guess we could pass it around if people want to see that. But it does show the different buildings that were here. I don't know if you want to pass it around, you can, but, so the buildings are all made of adobe. And so as we're also talking about being green and all of the things about sustainability, these buildings were not meant to be around for 150 years, you know, they're made of adobe. And so it's fascinating. I have this little jar, and if you're wondering what it is, it's not chocolate milk. It's clay, silt, and sand. And when you look at it up close, you can see the diversity, where the weight of the sand drops further down. So what we do is we show kids, this is what our buildings would look like if they weren't protected. And I did have some giant bricks that are in the trunk of my car, but I didn't bring them in today. So the thing is that this is what it is, clay, silt, and sand. And so without state parks protecting our buildings, this is what we would become, is basically a pile of, right? So when we do workshops with kids, we show them how to make an adobe brick, and they get their hands dirty. We even did it with little preschoolers, and they were like making the mud go out everywhere, but it was so much fun. And so whatever age it is, whether it's preschoolers or middle schoolers, high schoolers, or seniors, you know, we have all different kinds of people that come up for presentations. I'm kind of getting off track, so I apologize. Okay, so next slide, please.
Okay.
So up here we have some more photos. These are civilians back then, up in the upper left-hand corner, and they're again standing in front of the commanding officers' quarters. This bottom picture right here is a view of Officers Row. There used to be 5 homes originally. There are 3 homes still standing, which we had somebody from the Smithsonian that came through, and he's like, Sheila, he said, we have the state-of-the-art everything, but you've got 150-year-old buildings. And he's like, I can't compete with that. And I'm like, wow. So that's what that picture shows you. And there's the 4th building is no longer there. And then the 1st building's no longer there. But that right here, you can go through, you can see that today when you come to Fort Verde. The commanding officers' quarters, the bachelor officers' quarters is next. Up here on the right-hand side, those enlistmen getting busy at work, they're going to get water. That's what you did for potable water. You didn't have a Dasani machine that you would go put a quarter in. You had to send the troops out, and that's what they did. So next, please. Okay.
Quick question, do you have many family members where their families were a part of?
Yes, actually, all the time. We get different people that come through. I've had descendants of General George Crook. Oddly enough, I ran into somebody who looked so familiar when I was down in Phoenix one time, and it turns out that she shared with me that her great-grandfather served at Fort Verde. And so her facial features, I went back as soon as I went back to the park, and I looked at this exhibit, and lo and behold, it was her great-grandfather that served at Fort Verde. And the facial features were just incredible. And then oddly enough, 5 years later, a guy comes through and he has the same last name, and I said, are you related to so-and-so? And he's like, how do you know my daughter? And I'm like, whoa. so right, things like that just don't happen. Next thing you know, he's donating artifacts from his family collection because he's like, you cared enough to talk to me and to let me share my story, and you're sharing the story of the fort. And that's what I love about my job is those stories connect, and you never know where they're going to connect. And as you can tell, I'm an introvert, and I'm not. Okay. So back to the days of the fort. So the fort ended up closing April 11th of 1891, officially. It sat vacant. They auctioned it off to the highest bidder. Mr. Wingfield bought it for $800. They divided it into parcels. And so, again, that's part of why the other buildings are no longer there. But what ended up happening was the adjutant's headquarters building, which is this building right here where those really cool cars are parked. That was owned by the Hallett family. And Margaret Hallett, you know, her husband, they had gotten that property, and she was ready to bulldoze it and get a brand new house. Well, the locals were like, please consider making it into a museum, because all these other buildings are gone, and if you don't do something, we're going to lose Arizona's history. And if you think about it, this fort was operational before it became a state of Arizona in 1912, February 14th, right? So literally, this is Arizona's history. It's a place name, right? It's a placeholder. So 1956, 1970, Camp Verde Historic Society. Back then it was called the CVIA, Camp Verde Improvement Association. Later on, when they reorganized, then it became the Fort Verde Museum Association. But you can see the building right there, and take note to what shape that is right there as we go to the next slide. Okay, you might recognize some of these guys. All right, so I looked really hard for these pictures, you guys. On the left-hand side, Director McCarthy, Director of State Parks, And couldn't locate who the gentleman is, if anybody knows who's the military, the veteran military gentleman. But September 1st, it became a state park. And up here, Jack Williams, 1970, congratulating Camp Verde on becoming a state park. And the coolest picture, first park manager, John Shriver, who now lives in Clarkdale. There's a picture of him, and this is when they resurrected a reproduction flagpole on the parade grounds. If you haven't been to Fort Verde, they used to have a 65-foot cedar tree cut in half, built like the mast of a ship, because that's how they knew the flags would fly no matter what during high winds. And so they recreated that, and we still do it today. So every day and every night, we get to take that flag down, put it up, and take it down, and I consider that an honor. So, so if you haven't seen the flagpole, it's really cool. If you want to volunteer and help us out with taking it down, we'd love your help. All right, next slide, please. Okay, not only is Fort Verde known for sustainability and everything else, Lucille German, the first female state park ranger. So every time I saw this article, I'm like, this is so cool, because literally she had volunteered at the museum. But check this out. Could you imagine weed eating in that? A skirt and a beehive hairdo? I'm like, well, I'm sure she didn't have to do it back then. But anywho, so she was the first female park ranger. She paved the way for female park rangers. And oh, is that my time to stop? Okay. All right. Okay. So next slide, please. Okay. So that's the history of the fort. And adjutant headquarters on the left, it shows before when the military first operated it. And I have, this is a blown up picture of it, just because I didn't bring enough pictures of what the fort used to look like. And so what happened was, as visitor centers were closing throughout the state and they were giving us our exhibits back, I made portable props out of them so I can use them wherever I go. So they go with me everywhere. So thank you, Mickey, for saying that. So right here, what you see is those are before. This is afterwards, and this is a lot of partnership work, lots of blood, sweat, and tears, volunteers over the years, people that are helping to improve the park. Next slide, please. Okay, so before and after, Officers Row. Recognize Officers Row, that's with the cottonwood trees, and this is right here, you can see, and then this is after. Now, we did have to make sure the sun shone brightly on that day. So. All right, next slide, please. Commanding officers' quarters, again, before and after. Kids' room in the commanding officers' quarters, that was before. There's all lath and plaster. We had to redo the whole thing. And then here's an after picture. Next. Preservation projects. Preservation, as we all know, is the key, right? So if you can preserve by acting on things that need to be fixed, then things will last another 150 years for our future generation. These are frames, wood frames. That's how we made Adobe bricks. What we did was we made an educational opportunity out of it. We invited the kids in the community to get involved to help make Adobe bricks. So that's what you see in our local newspapers. They've always been an advocate. Yavapai Broadcasting, different places. They've always helped us to advertise because it's just a good partnership with all of us. But you can see that picture. Oops, sorry. I can go back one. That's the Adobe right there, and then this right here, this building is the surgeon's quarters. So all of that Adobe was exposed, and so what we did was we put lime plaster all over it and to preserve it so it doesn't fall apart. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Volunteers. Can't speak enough about our volunteers. Our volunteers have been the backbone during the recession, 2008. We had one full-time staff person, and we had volunteers, and we ran it like that for 8 years. And so literally the volunteers helped out with painting, building, not reconstructing, but fixing some of the dormers that were badly needing repair. You can see upper left-hand side, that's before. This is after, and there's actually a third after picture because when the lime plaster cracked, we made another exhibit out of it, because that's what you do when Adobe cracks, you make it an exhibit. All right. Until it gets repaired, that's the idea. Okay. Partnerships. Military, American Legion, VFW, Marine Corps League. We've had AmeriCorps out there doing projects. Hold the Fort was a group of volunteers that stepped up to the plate, and they literally formed a 501c3 to help keep us open so that fundings can go to keep us going with our special events. This is the town of Camp Verde. They also helped out with mowing our parade ground. It used to take me 3 days, and they did it in one day until we got our new mower. Thank you, Tom. And so, but literally, so it's about partnerships. The town of Camp Verde, you've heard everybody's talk about community. Community is so important, and when I first started there, I remembered going to the board meetings and introducing myself and saying, how can we work together? What can we do? And it's through that partnership that we've been accomplished a lot. So I can't thank the town of Camp Verde and our volunteers enough. Okay, next one. Master plan. I'm happy to say that we did plant 38 trees, and so along with those 38 trees comes maintaining and growing and trimming and all that good stuff. So if you haven't been up there, it looks pretty amazing. These are some of the projects stabilizing the adobe buildings, the fireplaces, chimneys. We have an interpretive meeting this Saturday. We've got 19 new people signed up to come just to learn about how to do more interpretation, as we've had new volunteers that have joined us, and we're very excited, including several other people that used to work at the fort that have come back and are helping us out. And then the construction of reproduction enlistment barracks building, that was one of the projects that I pulled from the master plan. That's from 1996. And of course, this is all fluid, right? So it's just, it's depending. Different people stop off at the fort every now and they say, what could you use? I'm like, well, let me tell you what I could use. So it's always good just to have a dream, right? Yeah. So, and that's our dream. Special events, we do Buffalo Soldier events in February, archaeology for the whole month of March. We do archaeology activities. This year, for the first time, we're doing Mountain Man Weekend because they came and asked if they could do that. So we want to represent all the different cultures as much as possible. History of the soldiers and military timeline, honoring all of our military. We did have different warriors, a Zulu warrior and the War of 1812 show up. A lot of other different war periods show up. Fort Verde Days, we have vintage baseball. And Victorian Christmas decorations on display. And again, these are, you might recognize some of the faces. Shout out to Marshall Trimble. He's come every April, and I'm so fortunate and honored to have him come there. Town of Camp Verde, they're the ones that did the parade since 1956, and it was their park before it became a state park. So we have a huge partnership with the Camp Verde Cavalry, and I can't thank those guys enough. Our Buffalo Soldiers, when we first started coming, we didn't have an event for them, so we created an event. So it went hand in hand with next door, the Pecana Wine Festival that used to be next door to us at the town. Okay, and then this is our mountain man right there. So, all right, next slide, please. Vintage baseball. We get several people that stop by, and Maury Wills happened to stop by one day, and next thing you know, he's been coming to the baseball games pre-COVID. But the thing is, there's different people. As you can see, different events, and here you have a grandfather. That's Hank, our volunteer, and his grandson Ty, who is now in the Marines, I believe. So, so you want to say thank you to him, because you know what I mean. You see the fruits of your labor coming out when you see these things happening and hear these stories. And then, but the corn, if you're wondering what that is, that's a Corn Fest activity. So the guy came out and tossed out the first pitch. All right, next one. Education, again, you see there's the artillery demonstrations, the military, this is the National Guard. They used to bring out their carriers. We're hoping to bring them back again. 13 folds of the American flag. We teach kids, we let them do that. We put out a smorgasbord and we let the teachers pick what they want. And so when the school groups come, we ask them, what would you like? And then they tell us what they like and how much time they have, and then we schedule it according to that. So, but our Buffalo Soldiers, they've been doing their presentations. John Yazzie does a presentation on Code Talkers. We have a volunteer, Jerry Geronimo Martin, who is related to Geronimo through his great-great-grandmother. So that's the Apache part of the history that we've wanted to tie in. So he shares that side of the story, which is so critical. I've been trying for like 13 years to get some kind of representation, and he walked through our door one day, and I'm like, hey, and he's like, hey, I've got a story for you. So we're so fortunate, but all of these volunteers, again, we're trying to go across the board and represent the different cultures of everybody. And then, of course, our American Legion and the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all of those, so do shout out to them. Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day. I've been a part of the committee about the last 13 years, and so it rotates throughout the whole Verde Valley. We are bringing the traveling memorial wall to honor our Vietnam veterans. And I can't tell you how many veterans come through the park that have never been welcomed home. And it just, it's one of my favorite things to be a part of, because the thing is, you know that these people, served our country, and they need to be welcomed home. And so if you can't put that on your calendar, it's in 2023. We planned this a couple years ago before the other ones were canceled. But we're partnering with the town of Camp Verde, so it will be between the town of Camp Verde and Fort Verde. And Terry right here, she's part of the committee. She and her twin sister, you might have heard of the Doublemint Chewing Gum Gals, right? They performed at the USO. This is Terry Frankel. So she's a big, huge fan, a big support of Vietnam veterans, as well as Ed Uzumescus. But this picture right here, these are all Vietnam veterans. And this is only a mere fraction of the ones that we've met that we've been able to thank at Fort Verde. Okay, thank you. Attendance, so I tried to pull the stats, but we were closed 3 months for COVID, and we worked on projects. So what I did was I went from 19, 20 to 21, but oddly enough, if you look at the 2019 stats, where it was 4,000 for just that period, when you go up to the attendance, you see how the revenue increased. During COVID, our numbers increased, and our revenue increased, and our hours closed 2 hours, so we were 9 to 5, we're now 10 to 4. But this speaks merits that people are coming out because they want to keep the history. So, so while our numbers may not be the greatest, the thing is that it's not necessarily just about the revenue, it's about what you're accomplishing with the stories and the people that you're connecting to. And that's what it is, it's the stories, it's preserving Arizona's history. But I'm glad to see the numbers are going up. Park hours, and that was Mr. Pierman. Visitor opinion surveys, thank you to Catherine when she started, oh, sorry.
No,
Thank you to Catherine when she started doing the visitor opinion surveys, because day use parks, we didn't necessarily get the feedback because they weren't leaving their responses, right? Because usually if you check out of your campsite, then you leave a response. Well, we had started a TripAdvisor campaign a few years ago, but this is one way, another way through Dawn's nodding her head yes, and through Catherine, where you can see in orange, and that's hard to read, but orange is excellent and blue is good. So I'm like, the surveys are speaking merits on their own. Yeah. March to October of 2021, again, 4.8, 4.9, 4.7, round them up 4.9. It's the staff, it's the volunteers, people come there because they want to be there, and that's what keeps us going is when people come in and they say they want to talk history. I'm like, okay, let's talk. And I always learn from somebody else. Every day, even kids, they teach me something new every day, you know? So, okay, next one. Okay, I mentioned this, TripAdvisor, when Ken helped us start our TripAdvisor campaign, a lot of people don't know this, but we're #1 of 19 things to do, and I know you're thinking 19 things in Camp Verde, yeah. So there are 19 things to do in Camp Verde, even if it's rural Arizona. But the thing is that you have Montezuma's Castle, you have Out of Africa, and once we started doing this, I mean, that's like really huge, and so the thing is, again, people are coming because they want to learn about history. You may not agree with it, and that's okay, but the thing is that you learn about it. You learn all the different sides, right? And so there's different facets. Okay. And then future park rangers, again, before COVID, we used to have dress-up areas where kids could get dressed up. And so the thing is that that's our future. They're gonna be our future park managers and park rangers. This little picture right here, the little boy and girl, that's Little Britches and Petticoats contest. That's getting kids involved with the town of Camp Verde and the Camp Verde Cavalry with their future colonel's daughter. So again, these kids, they're having fun and they're going through the buildings and they're doing the same thing that we're doing. So it's really contagious when you see them. And anytime somebody comes through and the kids are just like, telling me about the guns and saying, yeah, well, this gun is, I'm like, you're really good at that. You know what? We could use some help around here. What do you think? And I look at the parents or the grandparents who bring the kids through, and we've actually had some people ask if we could have T-shirts made that say, you know, future park ranger, you know, or something like, and so there's some ideas out there. But anyway, so these kids are our future, and okay, next one. And again, school groups coming through. A teacher sent me this picture, and so that's why I wanted to use it, because it shows a partnership. Again, we talked about generational gaps, right? The younger children and then the older folks and seniors like me. I'm getting older. So the thing is that it's partnerships. And so it's just a all-around benefit for everybody. So, and the next one, and I know I've been on way too long, so thank you for bearing with me, you guys. Okay, and so Fort Verde, preparing Arizona's history for future generations. This is not the last chapter in the book, because there's plenty more pages that I know we have to close. But it's really up to what people decide they want to do. What chapter do we want to write in the next chapters? You know, the next sequel. And by having the fort open, I can't thank you guys enough, because the thing is that people don't have that experience. And I have people that will say, when did you build this fort? And they're like, 150 years ago, the enlisted men did. And so helping to get the word out is going to be huge. And so we want to preserve it because that's our mission statement, right? So that's what it is. And so I want to say thank you for your time, and thank you for letting me present on behalf of Fort Verde. And hope to see you in 2023 for the, if not sooner. So thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Appreciate it very, very much. Need to get up there. James, can you bring us?
My apologies.
You're Pete. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking up at the screen. That's my Pete. I am so sorry. All right.
I'm very sorry. I was not aware that it could
James is my given name, but I'm Pete. I don't think anyone in state parks knows me by James. But,
well, you do. We do now.
Payroll knows it, right?
That's right.
Yeah. All right, Pete, go for it.
Well, I did a presentation a couple of years ago. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I know John's been there.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Anyway, I was at that time the manager of Full Hollow and Lyman Lake. But we now have a manager at Lyman Lake, so I'm stationed at Full Hollow. A little bit on Full Hollow, how Full Hollow got its name. You know, the park was named after Thomas Jefferson Adair. In 1885, he decided to try and make a farm. Well, in that area, farming is not too good. So obviously the locals joked and said, "What fool would try and farm?" And Full Hollow stuck, you know. Dam was built in 1957 by the Game and Fish Department. I heard different stories why it was built. I'm not exactly sure. You know, I heard for fire lake reservoir, and then basically recreation lake. You know, there's really not at that time not a lot of lakes in and around Show Low. Up in the mountains, alpine area, whatnot. Yes, there was a lot of water up there. Full Hollow Lake, basically, it's a 150-acre lake. And we depend on, obviously, snowpack, and we need snowpack to keep our lake levels up. Not looking too good this year for us up there. We're probably going to be you know, down, lake levels are going to be low this summer. You know, partnership is a unique partnership. You know, we got us, Forest Service, City of Show Low, and Arizona Game and Fish. Full Hollow offers a lot of things to do. You know, we anglers come out. It's a great lake to fish. We see a tremendous amount of non-motorized boats, kayaks, canoes, things of that nature. Game and Fish has been a great partner. They do a lot of programs promoting. We were talking some boating safety programs a little while ago. They've actually come out and do a kayak and canoe boating safety class, basically promoting wearing life jackets. Excuse me. Full-time staff at Full Hollow. We got 6 full-time rangers. Excuse me, dry throat. And some beautiful pictures. You know, we got a friendly bull elk there that likes to come visit us now and then. He don't pay his fees. We have to run him down, and that's the true story. We'll walk right through the gate, into the park, down the road, and it's pretty amazing sight.
That's funny.
good.
excuse me. Great sunsets, Full Hollow Lake, just amazing sunsets.
So pretty.
My staff, Full Hollow, work very hard during the summer months, obviously. Our peak season is really from end of April through September. It's all hands on deck, getting people in and out of the park safely, answering questions, promoting Arizona State Parks. Anyway, next slide. Yeah, COVID, boy, did it mess with us. COVID was a challenging year. Full Hollow actually, we're a part of the U.S. Forest Service, obviously, so, excuse me, we had to follow their guidelines. They were gonna close us down completely in March of 2020. I wrote a modified operation plan. They accepted. We were able to stay open, obviously, every other campsite, monitoring, and also monitoring and limiting day use vehicles, so we're out there, excuse me, patrolling the park, counting cars, basically tried to keep the separation of large groups. It worked, but believe it or not, our numbers went up. In day use, our numbers soared. That 69,000 there, that's a typo on that was the new Itennial and old Itennial. Basically, in this year so far, fiscal year 22, we're about 72,000 visitors this year, up till just a week ago, which is good for us.
Yeah.
Our I predict we should hit our 150,000 people because of our heavy part of the season that's coming up. Like I said, from the end of April through the end of September is our busy season. And here we go. We got winter. That's 2020. Last year, about this time, actually, there's nothing in Shola right now. Well, we have no snow. Roughly 5 inches is all we've had so far this year. Our group ramadas, very popular. During COVID, that's where our revenue went into the toilet. These were usually full. We have 5 of these. They seat up to 150 people. We didn't rent them. That was part of the modified operation plan we had to submit to the Forest Service to keep the park open, because there was no way we could keep the groups down. We didn't have the manpower to monitor that. So these are, there's weddings, family reunions, and just various events that go on those. And basically, the summer of 2020, they were closed basically all summer long. Oh, okay. We are on the National Eagle Registry. As far as we got our nest watchers, Game Works with Game and Fish comes in. Basically, we do have currently 4 male eagles in the park. Huge. So we're looking for that. We're looking for a good hatch this year. Last year we had the hatch, we had the banding due to COVID. Unfortunately, the park rangers didn't go. Game and Fish would let them bring a couple of their folks. We didn't go to the banding. We do protect it. It's a sensitive area. All of our rangers work hard at educating people. We don't tell people where it's at, obviously. But we educate people on if they do stumble upon an eagle's nest to steer clear of it. And as again, Game and Fish is a great partner on that. Those guys camped back there in the winter of 2019. I forgot they were there. I'm plowing the roads. We have like 2 feet of snow. Oh, shoot. I forgot my Game and Fish guys were back in the park. They were stranded. So I had to go plow them out. We took some firewood. They basically camped there. They can't camp back there. Wow. So yeah, But yeah, it's just great to have and see the Eagles, you know, soar over Fool Hollow Lake, and obviously to have them make their own park. So, next slide. Interpreter programs, as I said, great part of the U.S. Forest Service. Forest Service provides interpreter programs through the summer months, basically from Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend. And we, in a visitation from these programs alone, that's usually around 4,500 people through the summer come in to the park. And those people drive in from the city. You know, they look forward to seeing these programs. They've been going every Friday night for 20 years. Great programs. The Forest Service Interpretive Ranger really puts a lot of heart and soul into these. And our interpretive rangers will sit in and help these on some of these programs, or we will present a program with. Next slide, I think, is obviously 2020. We didn't get to do this. 2021, we didn't get to do this. But it's all local schools. This is what Fool Hollow Arizona State Park staff does. We put on some great programs. Usually during the spring fling break, 450 to 600 kids in a week is what we put through the park.
Wow.
Usually stationed in all those ramadas, different programs, hikes, all great program. So we're looking forward to it this year. Lake level a week ago. This is Redhead Cove. That's pretty good for this. That's pretty good for this time of year right now. Actually, it's not bad. Go to the next slide. I think it's earlier in the summer. We see how much it's went down. But last year when we started out the season in about January of last year, we were lower than the previous photo. But we do have some issues with the lake, and hopefully we get those addressed. Fool Hollow, if you've ever been to Fool Hollow, I know John's been there. We had we had some bad lap joints in the park, so work with the Forest Service and the Revenue Share, the Granger Thigh Fund. We did a lot of work on there in 2020, getting rid of some of our inverted speed bumps, that's what I call them. Does slow traffic down, but we've done a tremendous amount of work on the roads and got more work coming. Actually, this fall, Arizona State Parks is going to be up doing some major road repairs for us, making our campers happy. Boat docks, her challenge, boat docks, fishing docks, due to the fluctuation of the lake. Back in, it was the winter of 2018-19, the lake was super low about driving when I first came up to Fool Hollow. Well, we had snow that year. We had a lot of snow. Spring melt came, and usually the city of Show communicates with us, we need to loosen our anchors or tighten our anchors. So they let us know we're going to release some water. They released water, but they didn't tell us they released both gates. We came in the next morning. Basically, the lake rose 22 feet. They covered our benches, broke all of our anchors, you know, so it was a mess. So the fishing docks we're working on now with Game and Fish and State Parks Construction Services, so hopefully we'll have a couple of those up and going very soon. The day use fees, that's our fees right now. Camping fees, whatnot. We have 92 full hookup campsites, 31 tent sites. Fool Hollow is kind of unique to have what we call side-by-side sites. They were built, you know, the park was built in 1994, back when there weren't motor homes 40-foot long with 6 slides on them. So the side-by-sides no longer work, some of them. So we're turning some of those into premium sites. They got a nice big wide pad, accommodate, you know, bigger motor home, additional room to park there. Everyone brings a side-by-side or some type of ATV or a boat. So it'll help the improve the customer's visit and less complaints for us. Okay? Proposed, where the yellow tacks are, we've been working, Full Hollow has very limited parking on our east side. Major problem, it's a busy park, you know, visitation's near 160,000 people now. Back in, when the park was built, going back 14 years ago, I'm looking at visitation was 20 couple thousand people. We're up near 160,000 now. So, we come up with that. I got it approved by the Forest Service. It's basically going to be this this fall. We're going to clear some of the no ponderosas go, get rid of some of the juniper. We're going to start bedding that down and prep it for an overflow parking area. Because basically we have about more Eagle photos there, but basically we only have about 20 parking spots, paid parking spots on the east side. Everything else we put has been dirt, you know, just so we can get people to park, especially with our concessionaire on the east side. So anyway, that's hopefully going to happen this fall. Some more of the adult Eagle and pending, we have a banding this year, maybe we'll get to band another Eagle Full Hollow. Some of the challenges of Full Hollow is non-stop illegal off-roading. We put signs up, they tear them down. We put fences up, they tear them down. By the time I get to them, they're running, you know. I've caught a few of them going through the park. I like to do that because I take their four-wheeler and their motorcycle and I keep it in the lot for a while. So mom and dad comes and talks to me. That usually fixes the problem. Better than the ticket. But yeah, we have a lot of problems with, especially on the west side of Full Hollow and Lone Pine Dam Road. It can be accessed so easily there, and it's just hard to catch them. The city PD does help us some. U.S. Forest Service Ranger, he is busy all the time. There's one of him up there, you know, so he's a busy guy. This is something we talked about a few years back, and hopefully in the future we can get back into that as a group use area on the west side. That's really the only place at Full Hollow we can actually develop. A group use area would be very beneficial to us. We turn down, you know, group calls all the time, and that's very doable. And that particular plan has been accepted by the Forest Service, so it's something we may in the future maybe we can move on. JT Wildlife, that's our concessionaire. That was their building. That's what was there when I went there. But this is what they wanted to put there for many years. And finally, before longtime Ranger Ed Collins retired, because it's a temporary structure, okay, he finally approved this. Is what we have there now. Great partner to work with. They do a great job. They rent, like I say, kayaks, paddle boards, mountain bikes. They're even doing evening interpretive boat rides on the pontoon on the lake. It's become very popular, especially the sunsets up there. And I think that's the last one.
Yep.
But basically, come see us at Full Hollow Lake Recreation Area. It's a great place to come in the summertime. If you want to see some snow, you can still come to Show Load. You might have to go on up the road a little bit. Thank you all very much.
Pete, thank you very much. Really appreciate that, and Sheila as well. Mickey, when City of Show Low comes, we'll have to remind, for a grant application, we'll have to remind them about the water release. Maybe there's okay. All right. I know we still have John on the phone. Sarah, are you still with us?
I am, yep.
Oh, thank you so very, very much then. So we still have a quorum. Really appreciate that. So hang in there with it. And John is on the phone. So again, Sheila, Pete, thank you so very, very much for that insightful presentation. Really appreciate that. So future agenda items, board members, anything in terms of future? I mean, obviously we know what's rolling out now with the session coming on, and Bob will be talking a little bit about his report. Terry, anything? Sarah, anything that you have in mind other than wanting to meet down in your neck of the woods?
Nope.
All right, thank you very much. All right, let's go to Bob's report on current events.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and everybody. I think probably the biggest news that's been taking all of our time has been the release of the executive's budget, the governor's budget for all state agencies, but including ours. And I was going to hit you with the highlights. I think the biggest highlight is this is the biggest budget State Parks has ever gotten in the history of Arizona State Parks. It is. It's significant. It's $179 million. That is, I've worked for some big agencies before. We're certainly not a huge agency compared to others, but that is a huge number. The mixture of COVID-related or ARPA funds for projects that we have, and there's sort of a limitation on the use of those, mainly focusing on water, wastewater treatment. This is a second shot in the arm of ARPA funds that are coming. SLIF grant is going to be another appropriation of $4 million, so Mickey's boats are going to continue to float into the board for approval.
If the water's there.
Hit the water, so yes. We had a big increase in general fund that is going to be transferred over to ours. There's a lot of accounting that I'm just saying that I've already passed my abilities, but about $38 million came in for that. And then in a big appropriation, because I think with the board, the agency, and working with the governor's office, we've been very fiscally conservative. That we've created balances, and now's the time to take advantage of that with the needs that we've got in our parks, particularly related to infrastructure. That's the bulk of this, if not, almost 100% of this. So an additional $23 million that's going to go into our capital improvement program. About $3 million is hitting with building renewal, so those things that our park managers know full well. Your air conditioner dies or something happens, that's what building renewal will go in and help solve that. So the breakout of this, if you look at this as a pie chart, the wastewater treatment of this entire budget is about $86 million. And this is wastewater facilities, wastewater delivery, even water delivery with wells and things like that. Structural improvements are about $28 million, $10 million just for Americans with Disabilities Act access improvements. Yes, and we've been struggling with that for a long time. Broadband connectivity is another one. This is really the future of state parks, but also our customers is coming in about $21 million. Campground improvements statewide is another $12 million. So this is incredible. My jaw dropped when we got the briefing prior to the rollout, and the thanks really to the governor's office, but also the Office of Strategic Planning and Budget. They're the budget folks, and our folks. I've told our folks that I wish I had the charisma to walk in and walk out with $179 million if this passes through the legislature. But this is really the hard work of all of our folks. This is why we embarked on the development of park dossiers. We wanted to see what is our infrastructure, what are our maintenance needs, what are those things that we need to improve upon, and all the park rangers stepped forward, put together that document. It was so nice to be able to pluck these right out and say, here's the priorities. Parks all over the place, San Rafael. We're looking at $6.7 million to restore that property. And that property has not been open, and that property has got, so Member Buchanan's gonna be really happy.
Jeff was here to listen to that.
We were, but without saying, okay, here, Bob, here's $7 million, what do you want it to go to? And if I went, well, just trust me. Well, we all know that doesn't fly. That's where a lot of that information coming. Oracle State Park, Red Rock, the House of Apache Fire is going to get restored for that park. It goes on and on and on of those line item ARPA funded projects. But anyway, they heard us. This is huge. We're going to work our tails off. It starts now, the hard work. It's got to get through the legislature and as part of an overall complete package. So what we're asking all of our folks, all of our partners is to talk to your legislator, tell them how valuable this is, how this is going to help with tourism, how this will help with infrastructure is going to help our visitation and really, propel us for the next 20 years that we can get in a better position, so we're not running into this this backlog of infrastructure to a point of now, if we don't fix it now, it could be the point of no return. And we certainly don't want to get to that. But we need help. We need the legislature, they need to hear that this is a great thing. This is a great budget, and this is really going to benefit not just the agency, but our citizens of the state. So we're really, really thrilled about this. But Brittany and I joke all the time. This is now the hard work begins, and we need no shortage of partners to basically come to our aid and say this is a real good thing. And I think we've definitely built the reputation that we can get the money out the door. You give us money, we will get the money out the door. Mickey and his team has shown that as well. So anyway, we're really excited. This is tremendous, and you can tell how great this is. A lot of agencies are very, very jealous of us, and I love that. I love that. We deserve it. It's our turn. It's definitely our turn, so we're going to do everything we can. We'll keep you either through Brittany's updates, but as the budget process goes, we're a long way away, but it gives us a lot of time to get our ducks in a row. So.
Well, you mentioned you don't have the charisma. Apparently you do, and the agency does. So would it be possible, Bob, to put together just kind of, or Brittany, sort of like a one-sheet description of what you just verbalized on in terms of those big dollar amounts for those different things?
We're working on those right now. Not only for us, but for our staff. I think most of our staff has been briefed on this, at least at the park level. But yeah, putting it together, what does this mean? And our accounting folks are continuously going through that process. One thing that you might need explanation on is there was another appropriation that there's another category. This is around 20 million. 9.1 million of that is the pay off the unfunded liability that we have in the public safety retirement program. They lost a lot of money during the recession in their investments. This is where the law enforcement and others apply theirs. So we had about $9.1 million of unfunded liability for our officers when they retire. The governor's proposing to pay that off at general fund. And that is huge. We're a small law enforcement agency, but it's unfunded liability throughout. So that's a really big thing for a very small segment of our agency. But here's the impact. The impact is now not just the salaries, but the employee-related expenses that go with that. Officers were running about 120% of what their salary is versus an average employee somewhere around 40, so 50%. It's going to bring down that cost. So we're going to see that cost savings as we start planning out positions. It's going to secure the retirement of our law enforcement officers. I mean, there's a whole bunch of benefits of this that us and I think about 6 or 7 other agencies are going to benefit from. So it's little things like that we can definitely break down and give you a much more thorough briefing. I'm sure the budget will change. Hopefully it gets bigger, not smaller. But one of the things that is of note is that the executive budget did not include any additional appropriation in the Heritage Fund. So that will go away once our funds, unless the legislature and the governor's office decide to put that back in. I've already received calls from a lot of our partners about, is it in there or not? And I think they're probably going to make a run at trying to get Heritage back.
So this past year it was what, 10, and then it got reduced to 5?
It was 5 of general fund appropriation, 5 of COVID-related money, and that so a total of 10.
Right.
And now what that did is that they're considering that a one-time appropriation, so they're going to back that out.
So there's nothing in the proposed
in the executives yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know also.
Yeah. So we're continuing to go through that. We'll keep you updated all the time. It's going to change, there's no doubt, and we're going to be testifying, we're going to be talking to members, things like that. Brittany's working very, very hard behind the scenes to see if there's any concerns out there.
Well, and let us know as a board what we can do individually and talking to key influencers on this relationship, because
We will.
clearly that's what we're for. And it's interesting when Brittany was talking about those two resolutions, the Senate side and the House. That's sort of the storyline for what this budget is all about. This notion of getting involved in outdoor recreation. So
That's right.
Please, but congratulations so far, and then let's see where this all goes.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we will
Bob.
keep you brief. Thank you.
Next item on current events, board members, Terry, Sarah, John, Debbie, I don't think is on the line, is she, or? No. Okay. I don't have anything specific. I just wanted to commend your group. This was made available to us at our last meeting. And I saw there's a couple of extra copies out here from before. This is excellent. The annual report from last year, obviously, the information is very important to do it, but kudos to your staff. I mean, this is the kind of information that really helps us tell the story of what the department was last year and where we're going with it. The pictures were great. So all those that came forward, congratulations to it. And the more that we can get this information out, because in spite of COVID, I guess it'll be PC, pre-COVID, COVID, and then, what is it, after COVID, or whatever the acronyms are gonna be now that we're gonna be living with here for the rest of our time.
That's
But
right.
Anyway, that's good, so
Well,
thank
I'll
you.
pass that along. Thank you.
Call to the public, if there's anyone online that has an item that they would like to be recognized about.
Yes, this is Lonnie Lott with the Arizona Heritage Alliance.
Oh, Lonnie, we were just talking about you, or less.
I know, I've been watching you guys on YouTube.
Oh. Go ahead, Lonnie.
Ready for the call to public.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I know you've been talking about legislative action, and yes, we are working very closely to have Senator Shope propose a bill that restores the Heritage Fund back to its $10 million this coming legislative session. From our understanding, the encumbered buildings have been paid off, and so we are going with one bill proposing the $10 million through the lottery funds again and restoring the Heritage Fund. So at this point, the bill has not been assigned. We know Senator Shope he has opened a folder, and he will be looking for co-sponsors. We've been talking with our legislative champions to have good bipartisan co-sponsoring, and so as soon as we have that bill, I'll make sure that I communicate that with your I didn't pick up her name, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Brittany Hudson. Lonnie, you can send it to
Brittany.
me, and I'll include
Okay.
Brittany on it.
Great.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to also say I'm very excited that I'm going to have a legislative day, Arizona State Parks Day. We would love to be part of that and support you as we can.
Oh, you're top on our list, Lonnie.
Very good.
Okay.
Lonnie, and on that day too, I mean, all the things that were funded this past year because of the Heritage Fund, we need to keep promoting to let legislators know exactly where they benefited from this current cycle. So, congratulations.
Oh, trust me, we're preparing marketing collateral, and going to list those. And we have been starting to post on our social media and our website as the Heritage Fund grant awardees are awarded. And thank you so much for having that on the website. And Nikki has been fabulous getting that information to me. So we really appreciate that. So yes, we have our marching orders, and we're just waiting for our bill to drop, and we will be out there educating about the importance of the Heritage Fund.
Excellent, thank you. Well, good luck, and again, what we can do to help support that, because we don't want this to be a one-and-done situation at all. So, thank you so much for joining us, Lonnie.
Thanks, Lonnie.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else on call to the public? All right, let's go to item I, is just the reminder of our future meeting dates that we'll be having coming up on it. And then executive session. Bob, are we still geared up to be able to do that? All right. So what we will do, and Terry, you're going to have to help me with this in terms of going into a motion to be able to go into executive session. I think, Kelly, do you have it on it, or just should we use the handout?
There we go.
There it is. If you wouldn't mind, Board Member Terry Palmberg, if you would make a motion so that we can go into
Yes, I will
executive
do
session.
that. I will move, Mr. Chair, according to ARS 38-431.03A7, I move that we enter executive session for the purpose of discussing and consulting with the board's designated representatives to consider the board's position and instruct its representatives regarding possible negotiations for the sale of Pickett Post House and surrounding property in Pinal County, Arizona.
There's a motion on the floor to go into executive session. Is there a second on that motion, either from Sarah or John?
I can second that.
Thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded. I think all we have to do is just acclamation, correct? I don't think we have to do a roll call. That
I don't think so. We're just going in.
Yeah, so anyway, with that, we have a motion and a second to approve to go into executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We will be going into executive session. Right? Thank you, everybody.